I'd be curious. Did you see that? Yeah. Oh, that was highlighted.
Yeah.
On the public comments, I see you have two different areas that you have. Okay, there's a public comment first and foremost, right after.
So,
And
yes.
one of the comments on the visionary, do I wait till that point?
Yes.
My comment.
So if it's a
That-
public hearing, you do it right at that one. And the mayor will describe that, but you're right. So if you want to talk on the visionary one, you can wait specifically for that
Or
one.
that, and then I can get up and get up.
Right.
Okay.
If you want to do it on anything else,
Oh, no, no.
any other items, then that first one is the one to go to at the first one.
Okay, no, we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Providence City Council. I can't do anything about that window. Sorry. Welcome. Today is October 19th, which is crazy, right? But it's the middle of October already. So we'll call this meeting to order. Tonight we have Jeff Nebeker, Janelle Seeley, Carrie Kirk, and Josh Paulson. And Brent Smith has asked to be excused. He is away this week, and so we'll excuse him, but we still have a quorum. So we will go ahead with the meeting, and I've asked Carrie Kirk if she would lead us in the pledge. So if you'll all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Carrie. I have asked Jeff Nebeker if he would say a prayer, but I would open it prior to that to see if there's anyone in the audience that would like to say a prayer tonight.
Now's your chance.
Okay.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day and this wonderful weather that we're having. We're grateful that we can meet as a city, as citizens, as a council, and those that we work with, and we pray for the guidance and please direct us and help us with the decisions that we make, that all can be best for everyone in our city. And we thank you for the many blessings we have here. This beautiful Cache Valley. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. We will start with our council reports. We've had requests to have these first so that we have lots of audience members to listen instead of no one when we have them. So anyone want to go first? Okay. Janelle, go ahead.
October's been very busy for me and my council assignments. I feel like they come in waves. And I attended the Healthy City Coalition stakeholders retreat in Salt Lake with several of my Healthy City Coalition members. I thought that was pretty productive. There's a lot of collaboration going on with the Cache Valley Assisted Living Center and the Health Department and USU Extension. And so we're making good progress there. Had our league conference with Utah League of Cities and Towns for a week. It was nice to have Josh join us there. I feel like it's educational, and it's also good to just kind of exchange ideas with other cities and how they're responding to state legislation and different things. So I think it's productive when we go there. Met school district, talk about some bus stop safety concerns, working on some safe routes plans with the middle school. attended the Governor's Broadband Alliance meeting, the Legislative Policy Committee meeting, and the Blacksmith Fork Irrigation Board meeting, and the County Library meeting since Monday. So, like I said, comes in waves. And in the middle of all that, I got to enjoy the leaves in Von Bear Park. So if you haven't seen, I think it's a 1/3 of a mile trail, go check it out, and you'll get every color on the slate in 20 minutes. So enjoy it.
And you don't even have to drive very far to get there.
No, I don't drive too far. Nice. And what else? I've started phone calls that I received this week. This month. Construction debris being blown around in some of the areas that we've had our code compliance officer respond to. And fiber questions as they started to roll out. If you have questions as fiber starts to come to your area, the staff, the council, we're all more than happy to respond to your questions and help you with any concerns that you have. So please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to answer your questions. Right. That's all.
Just like to encourage everyone, as fiber comes on your street, you're going to want to contact your ISP and see if they are providing the fast internet that's available to them, or contact someone else. But we installed this for a reason, as our technology is moving quickly and we need the broadband in order to take advantage of the information that's out there for us. So we encourage you, if it's on your street and available, please take advantage of it. Josh?
Yeah, I'll go. Sure. So I never have as much to report as Janelle does, but
Waves, it goes away.
I'm in a trough. So the ULCT conference was really, really good. I enjoyed that. One of the things that was hotly talked about, I think, is water. Brett's not here, but he'd be interested in that. Just going towards landscape and irrigation. They showed examples of redoing residential landscapes for less water, and I actually thought that was kind of neat. And I'd love to see us work with a resident or somewhere in the city to pioneer some of those kind of example scapes that would work really well as being water wise. It would set an example for other people. It was pretty surprising to see some of them and know that you can have something that looks really attractive that doesn't use a lot of water. I think that's something we'll probably do with our yard, because we need to redo our landscaping next year. We have a lot of grass. So that was a good session. I also was able to participate in I guess you'd say kind of an excursion, not that type, not the cruise type of excursion, Carrie, but a different type of excursion where we went out and went on some urban trails that connected different parts of the city they had put together. And it was nice to see the principles that they used for that in terms of safety and longevity and looking at multimodal transit was really, really helpful. I haven't been able to come back and kind of integrate that with our transportation master plans. Would be good to see if those principles, we're making use of those contemporary principles in our planning that we're using. I was also really surprised to learn how expensive things were, like to put just a crosswalk, like a lighted crosswalk where you push a button to go across the street. It's like 40 grand or something, which is really, really surprising to hear that's how expensive things like that were. So other things, the Cache County Trails Committee meeting was canceled this month, October 12th. So they'll hold it November 9th, and they have hired a new coordinator. They didn't say who the name was, but they said they'd introduce them next month. So that will be good. And if we can pull it off, I was just at Providence Canyon before this, just right before this meeting, and the leaves are beautiful. And there's also trash as accumulated up there. So we'll probably need to get up there again if the weather will give us a break in November. But that's all I have. That's all I have for this month. Yeah, I have heard from some residents this month, not all positive, but I think it's good to kind of get a holistic approach to what people think. One of the things that I've heard from some residents has just been, while they appreciate fiber and spotting going in, how unsightly the cuttings down the road are. And my assumption is that will probably look better, once we chip and seal some of those and it gets covered in. It looks pretty stark right now because you've got a new strip of kind of new asphalt and the old stuff. So hopefully that will look better with time. But I've gotten some comments about that. So just pass that along as feedback. Rob, is that true? Things will look better once we put a slurry coat down on that or something.
And maintenance, it will come,
Okay.
we'll cover it up.
But I have to tell you that I love the smooth roads,
Yeah.
especially in the old part of town. So those have been fixed. And it's very nice to travel down those roads. I've traveled down Second South because I live at the top of Second South. And I don't have to worry about making my car a raft track. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably have less than Josh, so here we go.
It comes in
Josh
waves.
is gonna,
It comes in
Josh
waves.
is gonna have,
Sometime in December, I'll give me 10 minutes.
You did all the code review the last 2 months intensively. So there you go.
well, Josh is
Thank
gonna
you.
have, just so you know, Josh is gonna have more next month as he talks about zero escape
Yes, and I did
and how we
listen,
might implement that.
planning commission meeting was so interesting. October 12th. I had to listen to it twice. But if you can't listen to it once or twice, you can listen to maybe 20 minutes of it. Anyway, they talked about, well, they've already jumped into the code, and the first piece they're taking the bite out of is 1041 zoning district names. So very timely. I don't know. But changing those scary names like high to maybe R18 or R112 instead of, not just that, not that they look scary, but just so that they go with other cities. Other cities are using the same code, so
We're just trying to make it
that'll be part
consistent.
of the code that'll be passed to us, and we'll amend that code, the names that we've zoned.
Well, that's
Instead
our
of
contractors that
single-
work with multiple cities
Right,
and our
yeah.
county that works with multiple cities. They want to make sure they don't have to want to have a guidebook every time
Right,
they access our code because it's so different than everyone else's.
so if you can translate that and understand what the numbers mean, then it's not I don't think it's a big deal. And then I guess a moderate income housing proposal was also presented. I was looking for what moderate income housing, I was looking for the definition of that, and they talked about it, but I never really found that. But anyway, there's interesting discussion coming from the state. And it was talked about that we should talk to our state representatives and what they're pushing on their end. and
It's a
what-
it's a report we have to fill out that's
Right,
coming.
yeah, it's a report, but it was mentioned in the meeting that, you know, if we as a city struggle with what the state is pushing, we need to speak up and we need to contact our state representatives because, you know, if the state's pushing a certain type of housing and pushing for different types of zoning in our city that maybe our city isn't too fond of,
Well, a lot of it,
we have to find a balance. We need to speak to our representatives and let them know how we feel about the way we think Providence should be.
just so that you know, those proposals are required, but it has to do more with intermodal transfer stations, where people are catching a lot of transit. And we have one little transit station down there, and so it doesn't really apply to us, but we still have to,
Yeah.
we still have to do the report.
But it just brought to my attention that it's probably important to reach out to your state representatives often, because there are things that they will push on us that we need to speak to them if we want to make changes. Because I guess I'm learning that the state has the authority to push what they want on cities, yes, through state code. So,
There's some
Why we should be
discussion,
involved.
right.
there's some
Not
discussion
just
for,
us, but the citizens.
right, there's some discussion to take zoning away from cities. And if you imagine that the feedback that you as a council get on the zoning which I think we've got a good representation. But to your point, how often did the same representation get shared with our state representatives that are talking about taking that away from this body and having it at a state level? Yeah,
And it will
so
look more like Salt Lake than it will the small town.
So we'll do all we can, but from what I understand, it's important to also reach out to the state law versus your local referendum.
Can I make a comment about that? So the moderate income housing plan that we have to submit, one of the things that we kind of have to show is how many affordable housing units that we have. And this is one of the state requirements that we have because of the population that we have in Providence. And we're at like just under 8,000. But once we hit 10,000, our requirements will go up from there. And so I think that this is a recommendation that I got from Shelley Nazer, who's on our planning commission, that if we have accessory dwelling units within our city, which are like basement apartments, if we can get like an accounting of what those are, that helps us to be able to say to the state, we already have affordable housing units in our city. And we can account for those, if that makes sense. And so now we can get credit for what we've already done.
And then just a few comments from citizens, and I sent you some visuals.
yes, you want me to pull them up?
You can if you want. Do you like them?
I-
I thought they were pretty good record now. Yeah, pretty good photos.
I was just looking for the question underneath, so I didn't know whether this was to pull up so that you could show.
Wondering, what are we gonna do about the road and all the water that goes down the edge of the road there? How the road is deteriorating. So, I mean, I can respond back to him. What would you like me to tell this citizen on the road right there? Yeah.
So if you can give me an address and location, it looks like maybe
Yeah, it's
so anyway, well, you can get it to
200 north,
Okay.
400 east, 300 east. I'll give them an answer. What do we do about?
So oftentimes we try to put in a fill next to it so that we don't have it break off, but also we'll put a little wider road if there is no curb. If we had curb everywhere, you wouldn't see it. The problem is lack of curb. That's really the underlying problem with this. That picture is you don't have a curb and gutter to hold the road together.
I told them that
So
the city would probably go 50-50
if
if you wanted to solve that problem.
if they'd like to put in a curb and sidewalk, we have a grant program for a 50-50. And oftentimes if it is water along the side, there is a chance that it can wash underneath there. So if you give us an address, we'll go look and we can take a look at that one.
And the file name has the address on all of these.
Oh, okay.
So
Thank you. I didn't realize that. So, okay. Questions on the others?
yeah, these are all just right close to home. But that other one, I thought I'd pull up some fall leaves. If that neighbor is wondering when that dump of a house is going to be taken down.
And that's
It's-
on
it's-
the 300 east and
200
200 north.
300 east down the corner.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'll find out and I'll help you take it down if you want.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Me and the neighbor will go knock it down.
You're fine.
It's nice for painting.
Good.
Beautiful.
I think it's ready to come down
You know,
and then just fall
and then
colors.
I have thought about, we've talked about raceways and speeding in Providence.
We don't have any raceways in Providence.
Here it is. Again,
Please-
another photo-
Please don't race in Providence. Please don't. do that.
Well, it's under north. You're all wondering where the raceway is. Yeah, there are, but here's one of them.
And remember, all the people in this audience tonight, they all go the speed limit so that everyone
Behind them will
can
go
go
too.
the speed limit.
But
Right?
we say we don't put in speed bumps because of snow removal and do those plastic speed bumps, have you seen those ones? They just throw out. Do those work? Can they be temporary? Can we try some out?
Did you want to be in charge of gathering them up every time
Yeah.
it snows?
I'm not gonna do it in the winter time, but maybe spring through fall, we could test some out on 200 North.
No, talk to me about this.
Okay,
We can talk about those, but
that's it. I just took 10 minutes, so I'm through.
The picture's worth 1,000 words.
Okay, Carrie's got some good stuff.
Yeah, and I'll speak quickly. So hopefully I can cover a lot of things really quickly. So this was the 6th time that Janelle and I have been to the League convention, and I questioned if I was going to go, not because I know everything, but you know, there's some expense, and especially the expense of my time spending 3 days there. But I always walk away with a huge list of things that will make our city better, and of to-do items and of people that I network with. I networked with someone who works for Utah State who could help with our annual survey, and she's currently working on a Utah project called the Utah Wellbeing Project. I went to a class called Making Your City Goals Work, and I would like to encourage our council come January to have a workshop where we can really work on goals that are united, and not each of us give our list of 3 highest personal priorities to the staff to work through, but that we can become united on our goals so that we can make more and better progress. I made trash removal a talking point as I network throughout the conference, and I feel like I have more insight than I did a month ago, which is why I asked for it to be added to the agenda tonight so we can talk about that. And then Janelle seconded my ask. Every time I've left feeling like we needed to meet with our state representatives. So the last couple of years after League, I've gone to dinner or to lunch. Janelle and I and Kathleen have gone to lunch with Casey and Chris, and we have lunch set up with them next week and invited them to come tonight. We really wanted them to hear what it would look, what your feelings are on housing and density, and because the state is threatening to take over control from the cities. And so we're just trying to do our part. Another thing that was on my list, I had asked Ryan to post, as a city council, we receive fiber updates every month that say exactly where they are and shows us where they're moving, where they've been. And so I asked him to post those fiber monthly updates on our city website so that the citizens too can see where they've been and where they're going with fiber. I think probably everyone on the council has at least intended to listen to the Planning Commission meeting, at least the public comment portion. So we've heard the comments that were made from the Planning Commission meeting. I don't know how some of you will feel about me reporting this, but I asked to meet with Alex Berenson, who's working on the development on the west side of the highway. I wanted to encourage him to seek public input as he's working on that development. The first I heard of the baseball diamond was when it stated in the newspaper that Providence City is thrilled to have a baseball diamond coming to town, or a baseball team coming to town. And I had never even heard about it because it won't come to us when the zoning is already set. So if he needs different zoning, then it will go to the Planning Commission and then to us. But I wanted to kind of get an idea of what was going on, because people are like, what's going on? The city's excited about it. And I'm like, I have no idea. So I was wanting to know and to encourage him to seek public input and make sure people are aware as he's making those plans. Last week, last month, which feels like last week, we had a discussion about the pickleball courts in Providence and the tennis courts. And so I reached out to some tennis players and some pickleball players, and I like to play pickleball on the regular, so that was easy. And none of them agreed with the person that was here last month to talk about the pickleball courts and the tennis courts and switching them up. So I think it's important as a council to be listening to everyone, and it's important to listen to and show respect to the people in the room, but we have to listen to everyone. There is no easy solution, but I feel like we might open a whole new beehive if we try to switch those. And anyway, it's not on our agenda, so we can't discuss it tonight. But I did seek input on that. One person said, and I haven't gone to check this, Ryan, but the pickleball courts are cracking along the sound barrier because it appears to be rubbing. So it's causing, that sound barrier is causing wear in the pickleball courts. So I haven't gone to verify, but she said that she had noticed that. I'm working closely with the youth council. That the event that they were most excited about for this year was the fall ball. And it's a casual dance for 8th through 12th graders happening this Friday. There's also a Ridgeline football game that wasn't on the calendar when we set the date, but the youth can come after the game, or those who are less interested in football can come and dance and socialize at Zollinger Park this Friday evening. And any of you who want to be chaperones, we're accepting volunteers. And then mark your calendars for December 1st for the Christmas tree lighting.
Told you she'd have some good stuff. They all do. And as you can tell, their council members are working in your behalf. They're spending a lot of time. They're going to meetings. They're interfacing with the community, and they're making sure that your interests are heard. So we hope that you feel that. Oh, excuse me, I'll close that portion of the meeting, and we will now go to the public comment. Josh, you want to grab that list for me, please? Remember, this public comment has to do with anything that is within our purview, and it will be oh, yeah, we can. I'm just skipping right around. I'm trying to get done. So if you have not signed this and need to speak, now would be the time to do that. Okay. Let's go to item number 1 quickly, approval of the minutes. I will accept a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last city council meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, no.
Okay, second by Janelle. Discussion.
I only saw one typo on line 67.
Like 367.
Line 67.
What was the typo?
Hollow.
Hollow.
You got the 2 I signed.
Yes.
I don't see any substantive issues with it.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Now,
So they would like some clarification on public comments. If they're here to speak about the vineyard, do you want them to comment on that when you get to item number 3?
yes,
And not during public comments?
correct.
So most of these people that have signed want to speak on that. So no.
Okay. Do we have anyone just for general public comment? Okay. And I want to remind everyone that we do take compliments.
My name's Neil Varner. I just had some concern about the assisted living and the condos over on 200 North and Center Street. A lot of digging there and a lot of things happening, but I wondered who was doing the oversight on their tying into the sewer
Okay,
to the
Rob,
condos.
would you like to take that?
Certainly address that.
Mike? We need to, I'm like,
We do have public works inspectors that go there periodically. That one in particular, I think Gerald Taft, our water and sewer technician, has been keeping tabs and been working with that contractor.
do you feel like it's not being monitored or you're just asking the question?
Well, I haven't seen anybody, really looking at it. They're digging, there's probably at least a half a dozen rock trucks that come in there each day, and they're kind of making a mess of the streets as you go up 200 east. They down, we have new road from 200 down to about 300, I believe, somewhere in there. Those rock trucks, they're turning sharp enough where they're dumping part of the load in the streets. As you get down to about 400, 385 north there, where there's kind of a big dip, that's sinking again now. And that's what talk about cars going over that is, well, besides speeders, that they try to make it even faster so they can just whip over that. But, that's the only comment I really had on that part.
Okay.
We'll take a look. So thank you.
So we'll handle it. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay. State your name.
Jan Arnell from Providence. I do have something about visionary, but I'll hold it. I just wanted to comment that I think Strata is doing a fabulous job. They've just gone through our property and weren't able to put it where they wanted to because the power lines weren't buried as deep as they should have been. But they were so courteous and so informative, and were very interested in make sure that we were happy with what they were doing. So kudos to Strata. I think they're doing a great job. Another thing is the newsletter. I think the survey that the city took indicated, how long ago it was, some time ago, indicated that the majority or a large portion of the people who did the survey got most of their information about what was happening in the city from the newsletter. I'd like to see that go back to how just a little paragraph of what each department's doing, just briefly of what happens here. I know it's all on the website, but the website's not necessarily user-friendly, especially for older citizens. Not speaking for that, yeah, of course. Of course. The other comment that I had was that I know that the road situation in Providence has been a hot item for a lot of years, and a lot of contention and everything going about it. So kudos to the city for all of the improvements. I no longer feel like we're the bad city, road city of the valley. So thank you.
Two compliments. I like that.
And Ryan and Rob.
Yes. We have a wonderful staff at the city and they take care of things, and we pride ourselves in trying to make sure that we get stuff done and respond to citizen issues. So thank you. One thing that I failed to ask, Ryan, do we have any online public comment that we?
No.
Okay, thank you. So if that's it for just public comment, I will close that portion of the meeting and we'll go to item number 2, which is a presentation that we have every year from CAPSA. And so we'd love to have you come up and state your name and give us your report.
Well, I'm Sarah Fitzgerald. I am the Chief Communications Officer at CAPSA, and I'm really appreciative that you guys are allowing us to be here tonight and talking about this really important topic, which October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is why I'm here tonight. So we recently had a meeting with law enforcement where we asked them to share what they thought the impact would be if CAPSA didn't exist in the community. And the officer responded that he actually wasn't sure what that would look like because he's never known anything different. And for those of you who don't know, just a little bit of history about CAPSA, it was actually formed back in 1976 as the Cache Valley Rape Crisis Team. There was a series of rapes that had happened on Utah State's campus, and this team was then formed. And then it evolved into law enforcement, bringing domestic violence into that as well. And this is good theme music with this. So Thad and Jenny Box were the founders of our organization, and Thad was actually serving as the Dean of the College of Natural Resources. And his wife came to him and said, hey, I want to start housing people in our home. And Thad'll tell you that the only reason why he agreed is because he thought, okay, 2 to 3 families in our home, no big deal. 2 to 3 families a year, that's probably not going to be a problem. But then within that very first week, law enforcement came and brought 3 families there, and that was back in the 70s. So he quickly learned that it was a problem even then, and unfortunately, it still remains a problem today. So I want to put it in these terms. If CAPSA didn't exist, there would be at least 2,000 individuals just this year who would have not had supportive services following a domestic violence incident, sexual assault, or rape. There would have been over 8,000 unanswered calls for help. Nearly 300 individuals would have no place to safely escape to, meaning that they and their children would likely be left without a safe place to sleep. Thousands of individuals would not have had advocacy or therapy to help them heal for their abuse, and 400 individuals would have been left without safe places to learn and process and gain a support network. 89 families would have been left without a long-term house following their escape from their abuse as well. So those are all numbers of people that we've supported just this past year. And over 18,000 youth and adults would not have received prevention and education information to help stop the cycle of abuse. As you may know, we actually go into the elementary, middle, and high schools and do prevention education throughout Cache and Rich counties. So just so you guys know, I brought you some numbers from Providence City. So from Providence City alone, we had 75 calls this past year and over 35 clients that we have seen. These numbers, while they might seem small, it's always one too many. So I just want to tell you how our community has really greatly benefited from the collaborative efforts of organizations like city councils, the community, and all the support that they bring to CAPSA. As I circle back to what this law enforcement officer was saying, he was saying and concluded that without CAPSA, our community would look very different. And the work we do is really important because we know that statistically speaking, 1 in 3 women in Utah and 1 in 7 men will experience some form of abuse in their lifetime, which is actually higher than the national average. So this month, we're asking everybody to stand for someone. If you notice something doesn't seem right, please say something. Encourage them to call CAPSA and our 24/7 hotline. It's always available. Somebody's always there to answer a call. And we invite you to wear purple ribbons and in support for our survivors. So I've actually brought those with me today, and I'll pass those out to you guys, and I'll leave some at the front. And then I also have a poster that you guys can hang in the city just to remind people that it's October and Domestic Violence Awareness Month is really important. You guys have any questions for me?
Just a thank you for the service that you provide, and the fact that you're there 24/7 that people can call, I think is so important.
Thanks.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have a list of donations or things that you take? I know we have like a women's shelter up on.
Yeah, so that's probably what you're talking about is that's CAPSA is the women's shelter. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, so we do have a list of items that you can go on capsa.org/give, and there's usually always a list of the items that we're currently needing for our shelter. So
Let's you and I talk, and maybe we can put something in our newsletter as well.
that would be fantastic. Yeah, we would be happy to do that. I'll leave these with you. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Wonderful in our community that we have this kind of an organization that can help people. So thank you very much. That takes care of item number 2. Item number 3 is Vineyard North Phase annexation, the Providence City Council will take comments, questions regarding the request from Visionary Homes to annex parcels 02-004-0001 and 02-004-0002. Generally located in the area of 6 East, 600 South, and 100 East, 1000 East, and consisting of an acreage of 20.87 acres. So, this is a public hearing. And so I have a list here of people who want to speak. So Hal, you're first on the list. You're just signing that you're here.
There are two lists. This is the speaking.
Okay. All right. So you're off the hook.
If we haven't signed up, are we still allowed to sign?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's 3 of us.
I'd like us to come up and do it now.
You can sign it when you come up. So Jan, you're the next one on the list.
My comment is not
No.
about annexation, it's actually wrong, Jan.
Yes, but you
Oh,
need to
sorry.
come up to the
I
mic.
don't have a comment about annexation. It's
Okay.
about the zoning.
It's the same. It's one and the same.
Thank you for that clarification. I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. In the planning commission meeting, when they discussed this, there really wasn't a problem about the annexation. I think that's pretty well agreed that that's going to happen, and since that's fine. But the thing that was most concerning was the zoning, the single family high, which I guess they're trying to rename, and the single family that's just less than that, which I don't remember what it's called, single family medium. I don't
Single family medium. I mean,
and they were trying to convince us that single family high and single family medium were so close to the same that we might as well make it single family high. I'm pleading with you, please don't do that, because we as citizens went through a lot of problems to get this a little bit more in line with what the citizens wanted, in line with what River Heights wanted. Single family high would seem like it would be a slap in the face. So single family medium would really give Visionary what they want, as far as they were mentioning 74 units, and would give the citizens a feel that the city council is actually listening to them, and that would be really nice. And I think that being able to help with citizens understand that Visionary only does what you allow them to do, and so we as citizens really ask you to listen to what we voted on before. That's it. Thanks.
And so what you're saying is 74 is too many?
No, that's the number that they kind of put out there, especially at sauerkraut days, and people were like, okay, we can deal with 74.
Okay.
But what they're saying is that, well, we really want to have single family high, which gives them a little bit more leeway of what they can actually do with that land. And as citizens, I think we would be more comfortable with the zoning of single family medium, even though it gives Visionary what they wanted with the number, but also gives us the feeling like we're being heard.
You'll hear more information as we go on tonight.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Okay, Kendall, Pace?
I just wanted to comment on the annexation and the zone proposal. First of all, I would admonish you or ask you to, whatever decision you make here tonight on that, is to ask yourself the question, what is the benefit of the residents of Providence to make the zone change to single family high? And what's the benefits of the annexation to the residents of Providence? How does it benefit the city of Providence to do this? And any decisions ever made with the council, the planning commission should have those questions on their mind, and only do it for the benefit of the residents and for the property values and for the schools and for the streets and our emergency response system. I feel that Visionary has already had their big bite out of our city. and taken a huge advantage and already capitalized on as much as we should allow them to do. I think they really should give back if they're going to proceed with this and give back more to the city by proposing a zone for single family residential or single family traditional to try to help offset some of the other imbalances that they've done so far in the city. I think it would help the city improve. It would help the property values maintain or even go up by going with the higher ability. Incidentally, I'm not overly thrilled about the idea of changing the code names because I feel like changing the code names to more generic, it kind of hides what the intent of the code is really doing. So going from single family high or calling it R7 or R6 or R5, people aren't really going to understand that as well. So if the intent is to kind of hide the intention of the zone name by burying it in some kind of a number or system, I definitely against that too. That's a little bit different than what I'm really here to talk about. But I ask that the council deny this annexation and this code change request from Visionary. I think they've already taken too much. I think they need to go back to the drawing board. We're looking at not, I think it was 73 is what I saw on the map, but if it's 74 residences going in there, that has the potential of being 148 families that go in there. And that's quite a few families that occupy that area. And I don't know that we really have a system here in Providence to handle it for the schools, how that will impact the schools, how it impact the traffic, how it impact our emergency response systems. I think we're just not there yet to do that. I mean, we already have a garbage issue that we had another 148 families to that. It just adds to the garbage collection issue on top of that. So in conclusion, I asked the council to deny this. It was barely passed from the planning commission that be approved, but it was just barely over the passing zone of that. So I ask you to deny the annexation and the zone change. They have Visionary, if they want to continue, to go back and propose a new zone change for something better like single family traditional or residential. Thank you.
Let me just ask you, how do you get 148 families out of 74 homes?
There's 74 homes, that'd be 74 families. If they have basements, which I'm not sure about that yet. If each of those homes has a basement, then each one could be a rental as well. So I mean, that's the potential there.
And your proposal is what? Nothing?
Deny it. Deny the annexation and the zone change that Visionary is requesting. And go back to the drawing board and suggest a new zoning change for something more like single family traditional or single family residential.
Okay.
We just can't keep letting developers, builders, investors take advantage of the city, and they'd be the only one that benefit from these changes. If somehow this benefits the residents, I would like that to be known and shown and discussed, and somehow we need to know that. Right now, that doesn't look like there's an advantage to any of the residents in Providence by allowing that zone change.
Thank you.
Your name again?
Kendall Pace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Natalie?
Natalie Pace, I live in River Heights, and I just have a quick question or a request, concern about the location of the amenities, whatever ends up happening, whatever plan is that will move forward. Just the location, the last plan that I saw put that the amenities on the southeast corner of our property, just across the fence. I'm just wondering if there's a possibility to shift that inward, that's more inside of the development, so it's not right along our property line, just so there's not, park and public and lots of people right next to our property. So that's all.
That's something that will come at a later time.
Okay.
We don't deal with that. And right now we're talking about annexation and zoning.
Okay.
And we don't see necessarily, for the most part, when we do this, we don't see a sophisticated plan.
Mm-hmm.
So Visionary has been kind enough to be able to show those kind of things to people, but tonight we're only dealing with the annexation and zoning.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that was on the public record, that is something that
And we have Dallas.
are concerned about.
here tonight, and so he might do an offline with you and
Yeah,
talk with you.
great. Okay. Then I would say if you want to follow up with that, it would be the planning commission approves the final subdivision plat. And where all that is. So that would be on a future agenda with the planning commission.
Okay.
So we're also looking at a special agreement where we've put in 74 homes, right?
Correct. That
So
will
are
be
there
in-
other things
on our
that could
next
be
agenda item.
put into this agreement?
That's about a few. And my answer back from the attorney was as expected that those aren't things that can go into an agreement. For instance, the zoning ones.
We
Don't.
want the open space in the clubhouse here that can go into an agreement, but 74 homes can go into an agreement.
74 can go into it, but getting down to the detail of where the lot actually is comes in a different process. So,
Brian,
yeah, sorry.
I understand the planning process is different than, in terms of location, all that stuff. I get that that's a completely different process. I want to clarify what you said. Did you say, my understanding was that with an annexation, the city could, only in the case of an annexation, the city could require additional things of the developer. Could that include required amenities and things of that sort?
I believe the amenity, yes, placement and
Placement, no.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Placement
my
and size,
understanding.
it's not
I just want to.
right. It's the placement that makes the difference of that comes in a different stage, but adding the amenity, yes, that can be yes. So
Sarah Fitzgerald? Oh, okay. Noel Cooley?
I'm going to give you that other list too. I'm worried if people accidentally sign the wrong one.
Okay.
My name is Noel Cooley. I'm presently on the River Heights City Planning as chairman. But I also live on Windsor Drive and I have a direct view over this property. So I'm very concerned about what actually gets developed there. I am not particularly against the annexation, but I am against annexation with single family high. To me, when I looked at the results of Prop 1, where the decisions voted 4-1 against the high density that the single family recovery zone allowed, then I think this is not going very far from it. It's my understanding, if this is actually zoned as a single family high, and the attorneys would have to answer this for sure, but my understanding is if it's zoned that way, the developer can go in and put all 6,000 square foot lots, which would then exceed the 74 that they're actually proposing. I think that the property that is being proposed there is so close to River Heights. The property right to the north of it are zones as 10,000 square foot lots. And some of them are even 12,000 square foot lots. So I don't think that allowing 6,000 square foot lots is compatible with the adjacent neighborhood. I also am concerned about the impact that amount of homes in there is going to affect the roads. And I don't see on the proposed, even though the proposed plot or layout is much better than the original one, I don't see any real open space there. I think that open space there is going to be your water retention pond, and it will not be affordable or available for outdoor recreation. So where are the people that's going to live there going to go? They're going to go right next door to River Heights School and to River Heights Park that is only a block and a half away from there. So I think that it would more appropriate would be to have your single family or your single traditional appropriate to that area. So I urge you as a council to reject the zoning acceptance of single family high and consider something as less dense. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Clegg. My name is Melissa Clegg, and I just moved here from Davis County. And so I want to say for similar things, and that you have this one opportunity to keep open space in Cache Valley. And we moved from a place where that wasn't taken into consideration in a lot of areas, and now it's really packed down there. And so I would like to suggest that while the annexation, I'm fine with annexation, that you seriously consider having it not be single family high, due to the fact that the schools are already overcrowded in those areas. We don't have the roads infrastructure, and also Visionary already did add the high density housing a little bit under the table previously with the previous city council, and therefore has added in far more families and a different feel to that area than would have been there anyway. And so I recommend, while you have the available open space, to keep Cache Valley feeling like Cache Valley, that you allow the annexation, but do not allow the single family high. Instead, you want what? The traditional or medium? Okay. Is there anyone who signed the attendance list that thought they were signing the speaking list? Do we have any online comments? Somebody raise their hand.
Well, you asked if you didn't ask if they wanted to share. You asked if they signed the attendance.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Okay. Who else? So one other person? Okay.
My name is John Jenkins. I'm the city attorney for River Heights. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you today. Also appreciate having watched you as council members deal with this situation. If I can just briefly say, when Visionary first worked on the Chud property, they first filed a petition to annex into River Heights. We met with them. Immediately after we met with them, you came to River Heights, and your predecessors came to River Heights and asked if we would work with you, because this is a neighboring parcel. There was a lot of issues in terms of access and density. We said, yes, we would work with you. As the city started to get public input, there was quite an outcry at the various proposals. As the council tried to reconcile those, it soon became apparent that it may not be acceptable to Visionary. So they then withdrew the petition, came here. You or your predecessors worked on it and approved something, and then of course it went to the referendum. My concern now is, as I look at this, the single family high, I think circumvents what the referendum spoke to, and that was the density. The density is high. I see you're thinking about reclassifying, but it's a high density. And so whether you call it R16 or you call it high density, that's what it is. And that's what the citizens, I think, objected to primarily. When I look at your code, section 10-3-6, it speaks to annexation. And in terms of the petition that's to be before you for your approval tonight, a few of the things that are required. In C1, it talks about feasibility showing the transportation and streets, and D3, the plan that shows proposed circulation pattern, including both public and private streets. One of the concerns that River Heights has is the current plan. The current plan has a exit street onto 600 South. The problem is River Heights has a protection strip that I believe runs along the boundary, and they have not sought, nor has River Heights given approval for that access onto 600 South.
Can I just tell you that tonight we are not dealing with the plan. We are not dealing with what it's going to look like. We're dealing with the annexation and the zoning. The plan will come in a planning commission.
I'm speaking to your annexation code. So for you to annex, you need to follow these steps. I'm telling you that the street that they have submitted to you does not meet your code for annexation. That's what I'm speaking. And so that's a concern of River Heights. We're concerned about density. We're concerned about complying with your annexation code for you to act tonight. My recommendation or my suggestion is the council should approve the annexation, but follow your code and just approve it as ag. That's a traditional thing to do, is you would approve it as ag, and then you can sit down and do the homework. We can meet with you. You can require a development agreement, and you can do those types of layouts that you've been speaking to the other citizens about. So you can have the amenities or whatever that you want in a development agreement, but that can come prepackaged before you approve this zoning. I'd ask you to consider those things. Thank you.
You do have a copy of the code that you're referencing there.
Yeah, I'm going to give you this.
Ryan's gonna put it up on the screen.
And let me just also give you this. There's a protection strip along 600 South River. That's the access.
And protection strip means, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that term.
It's a slice of property that the city owns that would have to be crossed to get onto 600 South. And we'd like to meet with you about that, to work that out. So it's, thank you for hearing.
Thank you. Okay, another comment? State your name.
Hi, I'm Cindy Schaub. I too am on the River Heights Planning and Zoning Commission. And this is strictly a personal observation and comment. I agree with the annexation. I do not agree with the single family high. And I'm not 100% clear on what you consider low, medium, and high as far as numbers of houses per acre. But if it's any indication on the existing vineyard, that looks to be high density. And because of that, just even the traffic on 1000 East has increased just by that small portion that has been developed. So I'm hoping that you would take into consideration lowering the single family and taking out that high density. The other thing, and just because with a high density, you get 2 more cars per family, that's an issue. And I know that you have a traffic study, as our attorney had referenced. So I think it's a tough position as far as the traffic study and which roads to use. So, and the other thing.
Can I just ask you, are your code names, what is your code name for single family high?
We do the R8, 10, 12, and those reflect R8 is 8,000 square foot lots. R10 is a 10,000 square foot lot.
And that's what we're suggesting to change to so that we're consistent with the valley.
Okay, what do you consider high density?
What do you consider high density on your code?
6,000.
That's R6, it would be an R6.
R6.
Okay, I just want to clarify that we're trying to be consistent with the county. We've had some accusations here that we're trying to change our code to hide something, which is a little bit accusatory. We're just trying to be consistent with the valley, which is consistent with your code. Correct. So we are changing to be consistent, not because we're trying to hide high density or whatever. So just so everyone understands.
And with this increased traffic flow, I can't address it tonight because this is strictly annexation, but I hope you'd take a look at what is the city and the builder going to do to mitigate this traffic flow. So thank you so much.
Okay.
I
Need your name.
approve, Barbara Moon of Providence. I approve the switching to the R 10,000, 8,000, 10, 8, whatever, so that it is more clear, because the single family high, as mentioned, was 6,000, and mobile homes in Providence only require 5,000. So for those of you who want to picture what a single family high density lot looks like, consider where you've seen mobile home parks or mobile homes. And it's just a little bit bigger than that. Yeah, 0.13 is what we're looking at for the single family high. Currently right now, I would strongly recommend, even though we have worked and tried to compromise with Visionary Homes about this, I feel like, as previous people have spoken, that they have had a lot of leeway so far and taken a lot of the land for the high density already. And we should be able to have bigger lots in this area. So I would suggest also the single family residential or traditional, but I won't fight for me against a medium designation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that needs to speak? Come to the mic and ask your question.
If we change the designations, then will that also change it to meet with River Heights and other cities where that would be an 8,000 square foot lot, 10,012 would be the smallest option?
The designation doesn't change.
In other words, what are your
Options.
Designations? If you're doing an R, so it would be an
They're the
R6
same
and
as River
R8.
Heights.
No, Heights are 8, 10, and 12, which would mean that the smallest possible lot in a River Heights subdivision would be an 8,000 square foot lot.
We will have a 6, 8, 10, and 12.
Okay, so I think that would be another reason that everyone is having a hard time with that, and that we want you to go to medium or to traditional, because already Providence is saying that it's acceptable to have an absolutely minuscule lot compared to the areas around.
So how many homes
I don't know how
would
many that
you
makes.
get on?
I have clearly
The
not done the
8.
math in the 2 minutes since we found that information out, but
Okay.
I would recommend that if we're going to change the code to reflect that, and also if we're going to be putting housing in
We're not
next to those.
changing the code.
Sorry,
We're just
changing the
changing
names.
the name.
I understand that. But that if we are going to do that, that we also reflect and consider that our definitions of those things should reflect the areas around as well. And that we should be making things that are comparable to the areas around and not just trying to fit as many homes as possible into a development. Thank you.
Okay, Vicky?
Providence, sorry, my voice is so bad. I wasn't going to input tonight, but everybody else seems to, or most everybody seems to be on River Heights. So I just wanted to say something for Providence. When this first came about, there were 1,000 signatures against this. There was an 85% vote no, to vote no. So I think that even though, you know, 1,000 people aren't here from Providence tonight, that's still how they feel. The thing that I have against high density is it always feels crammed in there. That's how I feel about the townhomes. Those people can't even see the sky out their front window. And it just has that crammed in feeling. When you go along the vineyard on the outside of it, and it doesn't feel that bad. But when you go inside, it feels that crammed, it has that crammed feeling. And I think that is what people are so against. And that just feels like it just ruins the feel of our city. you know, it's not so bad that you have a townhome, it's that you have 100 townhomes that are just. And so if we could just look back and remember the 1,000 signatures, the 85% no. I don't know. I don't think the green space that they promised people are happening. I don't think the green space that was promised in those townhomes happened. I don't know. It was my understanding that a lot of things that they promised on those townhomes did not happen. I just think that, I don't know. I'm done.
Vicki, have you spoken with people that live in those townhomes and they're telling you that they feel crammed in there? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that every single person I talk to feels like those townhomes are the very worst thing that's happened to this city.
And the people that live in them said that to you?
I don't know anybody who lives in there.
Okay.
I could go knock on a door and see if they're okay with no sky. I don't know. But I do know that there isn't a person that I've ever talked to, and I talk to a lot, that doesn't feel like those townhomes are the worst thing that's happened to this city.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl?
My name is Cheryl Ames. I live in Providence. Did you watch the video or of the public hearing before planning and zoning? The minutes, I feel like, don't give you a correct idea of what people were saying, but there were people there who lived in the visionary homes, subdivisions that have already been produced, and they complained about the lack of amenities, which is not in your purview, I understand that, but there was one lady who said that there was a call for an ambulance and the streets were so crowded with vehicles that the ambulance could not get to the proper place where they were supposed to pick some people up. But I would encourage you to watch the video of the planning and zoning meeting on the 12th of September.
I did.
That's part of our homework so that everything doesn't have to be repeated in front of us.
And people were parked illegally. It's not legal to park there, and they parked there anyway. So not a lot that the city can do about that kind of illegal activity. The sheriff's office would do something.
It's a private road.
So the HOA has to police it because it's a private road. Because it was not a public road, but what's being proposed with the single family high would be public roads with a 66-foot right of way, which is the city standard. But what has currently been built is a private road that's maintained and plowed by the HOA. Is that correct? Aside from the one that goes straight down the middle, that's wide, that's a city street. Did I get that right?
That is my understanding, yes, correct.
Okay. Any more comments? Okay, I will close that portion of the meeting. We now come to item number 4, ordinance 07-2022 and resolution 015-2022 Vineyard North Phase annexation. Providence City Council will review, discuss, and may take action on ordinance and resolution approving the annexation and annexation agreement of parcels 02-004-001 and 02-004-0002. Ty, I think that should have another 0 in the first number,
Yeah, 3 zeros.
but there are only 2 zeros in that one. So if you'll make that change on there, I appreciate it. So this item, what I'd like to do is Scarlett on. Does she want to talk about it? And then we would have
Scarlett's on.
Dallas speak as well.
I would mention on the annexation agreement, and she can feed in. But on the annexation agreement, much of it's boilerplate. The Planning Commission did recommend to have a maximum of 74 lots, which has been added to this with the consultation with the city attorney. And so at that point, that item has been added to this. Let me find it here.
Ryan, the 74 lots, does that make it consistent with how many they could put on if it was single family medium? But it gives them more flexibility to make it more beautiful.
Yes, and that's what the Planning Commission was recommending, was this would limit it down to the number that would be in the single family medium, but would allow them the same flexibility. If you approve it as it is, that would have the same flexibility as the high, which is the size of lot and the frontage of lot. So those things are different in single family high versus single family medium. But they couldn't have more lots. So if they had a 6,000 square foot lot, they have to have a larger lot to make up the difference. So they can't have all of that because they can only get up to 74. That is in line with the notes from Planning Commission that came through. And Scarlett's on the phone and she can comment as well. So Scarlett, can you hear us?
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Here.
Just barely. I'm not sure the people in the room can hear.
Let me test that out. Hold on.
Okay.
Comes from this little speaker right here.
Oh, Trump is here.
How about now, Ryan?
Is it coming out of those? I think we can hear. We can.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Not any better.
I'm only hearing sound from this one. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that it'll come out of those. It's
So-
not coming out of this, right? Hold on just a sec.
Okay,
The one in front of you. If it could be mine.
Try it.
can you hear this?
I think it's coming off the laptop. Give me just a sec. Test that one, Scarlett.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes,
I think we're gonna have to take what we got.
well, maybe Ryan, you can just maybe repeat what I say, so if they can't hear well enough. I agree with the comments you made. My only suggestion is that they focus on the annexation agreement first and make sure that the council and the developer agree to that before they do the annexation. Others to mention is 74 units.
Some will be bigger, some will be. If they did that, they'd have wasted them.
Or if
Why-
they did
why
that,
would
there
we
would be
waste
for
that?
open space.
Well,
It would be more open space. We're saying, can they
Yeah.
put 74, 6,000 square foot lots in
if they did, it would result in more.
the grass?
It would result in more park space, more open space, so. So it just gives them flexibility.
I understand all that. I'm just asking.
Sorry, it just seems like this would normally be after a motion during the discussion portion of the
Okay.
motion. Yeah.
I missed-
Let's go try it now.
Okay, does that work better?
I lost her altogether.
Our fiber.
Well, you don't have very enough fiber.
Let me have you speak while we're trying to figure out where Scarlett is.
I'm happy to be a filler. I'm Dallas Nickel with Visionary. Not sure where to start here. We've been, I think the first thing I've ever done at Visionary was this project. I was standing in front of some of you. I think Josh, you were on planning commission then. We've come a long way to get to where we are today. Some of the comments that I've heard tonight, I'm a little bit confused at. And I don't know if part of it's because of the naming again of the zone, and I know about, but it really is confusing. Or high can mean 6,000 square foot lots. That's a big difference, right? So I just wanted to point out to everybody that Visionary's original proposal for this piece, when it was LCR, had 202 units on it. That's
Is that total or for this parcel?
that is on this parcel. So on the same 21-ish acre piece, there was 202 units. Okay. In the development world, that's medium density. That's not high density. You go to a lot of places, that's not high density. Your own high density, medium density code for multifamily is higher than what that. So for us to now single family high, we've dropped 128 units. That's 63% of the density that we've. That's significant. Of all the projects I'm doing across the state that I've ever heard of, I've never come in with 202 units and then ended up at 74. Like, I feel like that's Visionary saying, we heard it. The referendum was real. It was, super majority. We get it. And so we came and we have responded to that. I have a hard time with somebody saying that we're still coming in, asking for really high density. And the problems that have been raised tonight about traffic and schools and, all those type of things. The difference between what I'm proposing tonight and what they're asking for is 6 or 8 homes. And so are we really saying that all these problems would go away if there was just 6 less homes in here? I don't think so, right? Like if this gets built out, you're not even going to be able to notice the difference between 6 homes in a community.
I think there would be less open space as well, correct? The land would be taken up in private lots.
Not necessarily, no. So the proposal, the layout, there would just be less building pads. There would be 6 less lots, but the open space would still be there. You still have to build the amenity. So that would stay. My point is to talk about doom and gloom because of I have 74 lots in SFH. Okay, well, let's say that I volunteered to cut 6 lots out. Did that really change anything? Other than my bottom line. So anyway, 202 units down to 74. I want to point out that that is a significant reduction. So when we talk about we're still coming in with high density, it's different, much different today than it was back then. So what we're talking about today, to me, has clearly responded to the referendum. So I guess that's point number one. I'll get off that soapbox. Any questions for me on that? I think you guys maybe understand that. You've seen these layouts enough. Is that clear? Second point, I guess I would want to talk about is since the referendum, and we've gone through a lot of iterations of this, we had a stakeholder group meeting. We invited some River Heights folks. Josh, were you there at that meeting? You were there. Good meeting. The takeaway was, I think that the proposal in that meeting was SFH maxed out, I think, which was 86 lots, and wasn't received well. I mean, there was, people appreciated that it was less than 202 units, but still it was seemed a little bit high. They wanted to come back at single family medium. They wanted us down at 60-ish. And so we felt like 74 was, a reasonable compromise. So we came with this proposal, with this concept, and this is what we took to, or our commitment to that group was that we would hold a public meeting. And so we talked about having a public meeting. Kathleen, I talked with you several times about what's the best forum. And ultimately, that's when we landed on, hey, let's put this in front of Sauerkraut Days. Let's have a booth. Let's have pictures. Let's get a real cross section of Providence residents, not people that are tuned into the political scene and that are, apt to show up to city meetings, but let's get, just the average guy that's walking by and wants to talk, right? And we got that. We were at Sauerkraut Days all day. I was there for 12 hours and had a great time. It was a fun event, actually. It turned out to be a lot of fun. I think I talked to most of you there. I talked to probably 30 or 40 different little groups that we talked to. We had some easels up there and we had pictures and some prints of the layout. And so talked to, I don't even know, but dozens and dozens of people. And the main takeaway from that meeting that recurred over and over in every conversation almost was, hated your original layout, way too dense. I voted against you in the referendum, but I can live with this. I'm fine with this. I heard that over and over and over that day. And so there's still obviously people that are unhappy. Every development has that, always gonna. So I guess that's the point I would just want to drive home, is that we talked to a lot of people, and that was a message. I don't know if you guys, if you reached out or met with your constituents, if you heard similar things, but that was my takeaway was, okay, this is something that the average person in Providence is okay with, because they recognize it's significantly different from the original proposal. So that's my spiel.
I've not heard anything from anyone.
Okay. And the interesting thing is, Kathleen, that people are very, very passionate when they don't like something, right? As soon as they are okay with something, they're off doing something else, right? Just like you said, you welcome feedback, or you welcome comments, and you welcome, pats on the back. Nobody gives those, right? People are happy to complain, but once
we did have some tonight.
You did, you had two. That was impressive. But yeah, once people are satisfied, they just go away. So that's not unique to this. That's human nature, right?
Right.
Any questions for me?
I have a comment and a question. One comment is that I stood in the booth and listened to you give the spiel to a few people, just to here's some random people that don't live next door to the subdivision. Mm-hmm. And they were like, they said exactly what you said. They're like, yeah, this seems fine. The thing that it was interesting about the comments is what people said no to, or what people voted no on was not this. People voted no on 102 and apartment buildings. I think, the apartment buildings really put people up in arms, and this is not apartment buildings and this is not townhomes.
Right.
Everything has a double-edged sword. So I think most of us here have met with the mayor of River Heights, and I had a meeting with him and enjoyed visiting, and we have a lot in common. And one of his concerns was driveways coming out. And with this proposal, I like your solution to that. I thought, well, how are you going to not have driveways? But this really created a solution to that. But if we go single family traditional or bigger lots, then you have 10 or 15 driveways coming out, because you can't do what you're proposing with the smaller lots. So every single thing has its double-edged sword, and maybe I'm wrong. So I'm stating that almost as a question. Like if they were bigger lots, would there have to be driveways coming out onto the main roads?
There's potential for it, because we would obviously relay out the whole site. And at that point, I'm just maximizing, right? I'm trying to fit as many as I can. And if I put driveways on 600 South, that is one way to be more efficient. So, I can't say for sure, because I haven't, we made a commitment from day one. No, look, we know that's going to be an issue, so let's not do it. But it's not off the table.
The protection strip they mentioned, what's the response there?
This is a further conversation for the future, but my initial comment to that is, when you look on the parcel map, there is something there, I believe. We're going to connect to where the city makes us connect. If you want to, if River Heights says, heck no, we'll never give that up, then, and so that means that we just have to connect to 30 East, 1000. Okay, we'll do it. We'll work through it. We work with stuff like that all the time. But I don't have like a solution today. Obviously, if they wanted to be belligerent, that makes it tougher. But I don't think that's a question that has to be resolved to get through what we're talking about tonight. But we're committed to working through it. I can't say that.
I guess my other question is, obviously the first phase of the vineyard really packed in there. You're talking about compromise. I sent you an email, just talking about a 180, kind of what Kendall Pace, I don't know if he's still here, but he kind of mentioned the same idea of, you got what you wanted on the first phase. Why not just completely doing a 180 and go a little further?
Well, you could ask that of anybody, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just curious.
And I guess,
so over here you've got, it's packed in, but I kind of see the same thing when I look up on the hill. It's packed in and more coming.
It's packed in
up on the hill
for what the code let me do, right?
Right. No,
I didn't steal density.
No, you didn't do anything wrong. You followed the code. You did what you were legally allowed to do. And I'm just saying, but it obviously, as far as the citizens go, it's not, now that they see it, it's not what they wanted.
It's not what they wanted.
You agree that the streets aren't what you should have done.
Yeah.
The placement of it, I think, is horrendous, but I'm not saying it's ugly. It's beautiful, but it probably should have been somewhere else. You didn't break any laws, but it's there. It's dense, and for Providence. Why not just compromise and just go a little extra, just for the company's name sake? And I'm just throwing it out there.
When I think of compromise, anytime I have to compromise on something, my initial best case is, look, if we meet in the middle, okay, that's a reasonable way to approach compromise. Is look, both parties give, right? In this
That's
case,
the definition of compromise.
In
You
this
give, I give.
case, yeah, in this case, they're asking me to do 60 lots. That's what they would really like, is 60, 65 lots. When I say they, I mean anybody that's asking for single family medium is 65-ish lots, okay? I went from 202 to 74. Okay, I've given more than my 50%.
I'm talking about the first phase, the part that's already done.
Acknowledged. City
That-
didn't like it, referendum happened.
The city gave you the first phase.
Well, yeah, that
Yeah,
zoned
they
it, my
did.
property rights were
It was
such.
passed, yes.
So,
They agreed to that.
and so my, I guess,
Providence gave you phase one. That was our compromise. Why not on this second half? Go push a little further on your end. That's,
I guess my response is that I feel like I've moved a lot.
I know from the 202 to 74.
That's a big number.
I'm not talking about the 202. I'm talking about first phase.
And I guess I don't know what you want to do about the first phase.
The part that's done.
What do you want
That
me to
they're
do
upset
about it?
about. No, it's done. They've compromised. They've given you that.
Well, how is that a compromise?
They followed the rules.
I followed the
Right.
rules.
You followed the rules. The city agreed to that.
It was before the referendum.
Right.
So
No,
the
I know it was before
referendum
the referendum.
passed. We heard that. We're now coming back with significantly less density. I don't understand the question, I guess.
It's complicated. You've got super high density over here. It was legal.
Yeah.
It was passed through planning and zoning. I'm just saying the compromise are these two pieces. You've got high density here, legal, before the referendum. Just why don't you? I don't know.
I gotta draw a line somewhere.
Right.
And I made a proposal at 74 because I think that,
That's fair to
I
you.
think that is 180 plus some.
Yeah, I was just so maybe I think I hear what Jeff's saying. Maybe we can just clarify what he's
Yeah.
saying and we move on, to another-
Translate
to
for
another
me,
point
and then I'll
be a little
talk
constructive.
again.
I think what he's saying is the initial proposal of both large parcels, one was approved, one didn't pass the referendum. I'm assuming it had somewhere along the lines of 420 units for the initial, but we're
The
talking
whole thing was
2019,
about
350. So I think what I'm hearing him say is the initial proposal was probably what was the number you say? 350.
In the first
Half of that
part?
would be 170. Whole thing. The whole thing you're saying, if they did the initial plan, whole thing, both parcels would be about 350 units. They only got half of it was approved. They have vested legal rights to develop it. That went in. What do you have in there now? How many units do you have in?
There was 148.
148. So 148 plus 74, plus 74 that they're proposing would be the total units. But what I'm hearing you say is 350, half of that, maybe be 175. That's what I'd like to see in there. That's what I'm hearing you say. You're considering both the old and the new parcel. Is that your position?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of.
All right. So I just want to make sure I understand your position. I think he understands it, but I do think like that would probably be, I'm not in charge of this meeting, but that'd be more appropriate during the discussion portion of this meeting after a motion. So.
Correct.
Maybe I've crossed that line too, but any other questions for me or any other input I can give? Sorry, Jeff, if I
No.
didn't answer your question.
What I'd like,
Honestly, I think 74, like that really doesn't bother me. This is Providence next to Logan. I come from where there's more open space, if that's what you like. Should probably go there, but sorry, I probably shouldn't
You
have
said
said
it, not me.
that. I know I said that out loud, but I'll repeat. The first part, I think, is a disaster where it was placed. 74, the plan you had at Sauerkraut Days, it looks good. I can see how the people of Providence and River Heights may not trust you. You'll probably do what you're saying you're going to do. I don't know where that mistrust comes from. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I want to
In
comment
your
on that.
position, but if it were me, I'm just saying,
why don't we save that
yeah,
until our discussion?
okay, we're discussing right now.
Let me just make one comment to that. It was alluded to a couple of times and then a third time here. To say that we built or had the LCR granted to us like underhandedly, I guess I do take issue with that. You know, I mean, I'd be curious. I mean, it happened before I got here, but right before I got here. Where does that come from?
Not sure, but it's not true.
Okay.
It's just like the illusion tonight that somehow we're changing the code names to hide something.
I,
Yeah, and that's off topic, but. it is a
it's
little-
too bad that
it's a little
people
offensive.
are that mistrustful that they think that we're trying to do something deceitful. We're not. We're totally open with everything that we do.
And to that point, you know, if you read through the agreement, like Ryan said, it binds us to 74 units. Right?
It does.
So
It does. It's not traditional to have something
it's not
like that in an annexation agreement.
at
But
all.
we have confirmed that we can do that and
I'm happy
let's
for
put
it.
it, so.
Looking at 74.
And this
No.
agreement goes with the property. So if you were to sell
That's
this to
right.
someone else,
That's right.
they could only put 74 on there
It
as
runs
well.
with the land. That reminds me, there was some comment or some question about, do we need SFH to get 74 units? And the answer to that is yes. SFH, if we maxed it out, would get us 86 units. We're limiting ourselves to get the 74, but we are asking for SFH very specifically because it allows us that layout. We vary between 60 and the 80-foot wide lots. And the SFH, it takes SFH to get that.
Because of widths, is that what
Because
you're
of the
saying?
widths.
The narrower widths are allowed with SFH, but not with.
That's correct. So, and that has to do with product. When someone wants to come in and buy a house, 2-car garage brings the price down to have a narrower lot because that house fits. They want a 2-3-car garage, then we have a series of 80-foot wide lots that they can now pick from. That was one of the issues people had with phase 1 single family was it's tough to get a 3rd car on it.
Okay. So if that's all, if we
I'm
have another
done.
question, we'll ask you, but we haven't heard from Scarlett yet. Scarlett, I wonder if you would answer for us what the lot sizes are around this development.
It works. I've got as good as it gets.
Scarlett, hello.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, much better now. Thank you.
Okay, so, the lot sizes around the development, the River Heights side, when we've looked at their zoning, it looks like they have 8,000 square foot lots and they have 10,000 square foot lots. On Providence's side, Brookside is right there next to it, and Brookside is single family high. They have many lots that are more than 6,000 square feet. Again, that developer used the 60-foot frontages so that they could make a creative looking development. So if you don't need to drive through a trailer court, you can drive through Brookside, and that is what a single family high development looks like. My only other caution is that you make sure that you settle on the agreement so that you have that in place and you've approved the agreement and then the annexation. Because if you can't settle on the agreement, then you probably don't want to move forward to the annexation.
Did you want to add anything to the information that we've had so far?
I would second what you said about the city. When the city created the LCR zone, we held a lot of public hearings. That was all done out in the open. I guess people couldn't visualize it. I don't know, but there was not anything behind the scenes or anything like that. I mean, we held all our public meetings and sought input, and we sought input from community members, from the development community when we created that. So that was a very open discussion 5 years ago or whenever it was that we put that in place.
Okay. So it looks like we need to talk about the annexation agreement. So we need to have, right, so we need to have them, well, can this be 2 motions, Brian?
Yeah, we'll need to break apart a few of the different motions, but the annexation agreement is the next step. That at that point, if you want changes, you can have a motion to whatever you want to do. If you want to adopt it, and then you could take motions to amend that motion to adopt. You could amend it that way. But your next item would be the annexation agreement, because if you annex before the agreement, then that doesn't that won't work out. Yeah, you want to do the agreement first and then the annexation with the zone assignment. So the agreement comes first.
So I will entertain a motion on the annexation agreement.
I'll make a motion because I actually think I've been at this particular issue longer than anyone else. I think I was on fine which one that started and that's.
So then it's your turn.
Then it's my turn. I'm going to make a motion with an amendment from the beginning. So I'm going to move that we approve the annexation agreement with the conditions that be added to the agreement, the amenities of the pool, the rec space, and the clubhouse. I realize that those are on the concept plan, but they're non-binding to the developer. And we can ask for that. And I would like those amenities included as part of the agreement. I will note that I believe they at one time advertised a pickleball court as well. And I don't know that there's one going in there, but I'm not going to go ahead and push on that issue. So this pickleball just drives me bonkers. That's my motion, but I do look forward to the discussion on it.
Okay, Ty, did you get all that?
Second.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we have a motion by Josh, a second by Carrie Kirk. Now, discussion.
So, sorry, once again,
I need to grab her mic.
One second. If I can go, if that's okay. Sincerely, I appreciate it. I look forward to hear what my fellow councilmen feel. But so we started this issue in 2019, and it landed me on the city council. That's how I got it. Landed in planning commission and I got in the city council later. So that's why I'm here. I think it's really important for those of us who've been at this a long time to contextualize what has happened over that whole time. I'm a very average city council person, but one thing I think I do well is I think I just make good, sensible decisions. I leave the party planning and the outreach to and those but I just try to make good decisions. And so my perspective of this since 2019, and I'm glad you brought it up, Dallas, because when we initially saw this, and I pulled up the concept plan, we had 202 units, like you said, that included 8 condominium buildings, which I knew people didn't want. I'm glad we dropped that. They're a big win for the city. We had 60 townhomes in that. Big win for the city. There's no townhomes. We had 40 side lot homes, which were a concern because of the alley loading and stuff like that. We don't have any more of those. And good thing, right? Because when we did the referendum, we even pushed off the voting of this for a year because I really felt like consistency, let them build it and see what it is, and then you can decide if you like it. And I know that really was aggravating to visionary homes, but it was really, really good because the citizens got to see what was there, and now it's really clear they don't want it. So to go from over 4 or 5 years to go from 202 units of 4 housing types to 1 housing type of 74 units is a big win for the citizens. I'm grateful for that. I feel like we're really successful, and we all got a little gray hair from the experience, but I think it was good. The other things that we saw that I think have been improved are the narrow roads, which are problematic, and we don't like it's there. We can't really tear it up. We don't have them in the new development. So grateful for that. There were lots of concerns about water and drainage. I was very speculative that you guys would be able to do the drainage that you needed to do in that development. I have been out to your detention pond field 3 different times, early in the spring after the melt, and twice after major rainstorms. It drains really, really well. It's very usable. To be sensible and honest, it's probably the best detention pond I've seen. So we have plenty that are just not that good. So it works well. So I give you credit for that. A couple things that were missed, in terms of maybe facade or finishes. I remember Jeff Jackson promising me in a meeting that when we relinquished the sidewalk and allowed you to just do the walking path, I requested that be put in concrete for lack of maintenance. And I believe it when I've walked it, I believe it's asphalt over there. That never happened. Because it wasn't in the agreement, right? You didn't have to do it. So when I ask for amenities in the agreement, it's to go ahead and hold you to them. So you put them in. So I'd like to see the things that the citizens were advertised that they would get in the agreement and fulfilled on. And I believe that you'll do that, particularly if it's in the agreement. Yeah. So that's why I put that in there, just because they don't want any of those things to be forgotten in the process. And I believe the residents there deserve what was advertised to them and what they want to see. So that's my perspective on this issue, and why I really feel like it's a win for everybody involved. Granted, there's a lot of bad feelings, with suing people. There's none with me. I mean, this has always just been a transaction, and we're this close to getting it done, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. So that's why that's why I'm in favor of the proposal as I've suggested it here today.
Okay. Can I ask you a question, Josh?
Yeah.
I've been reviewing the code that was highlighted by the River Heights City Attorney. I know you were on Planning Commission where all these changes were made. Our annexation map still has this parcel listed as LCR. And
Yeah,
it's changed to ag. Do we need to separate it into two steps to be considered?
So let me, I think I actually got this one, Ryan. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
That's
I
fine.
think I got this particular one of this. Number one, I was there when we created that master plan and the map, and I was part of the group that approved that. And this was like Switzerland. Nobody knew what to do with it. It was like neutral territory. So they didn't know whether it should be LCR, if it should be ag or something else. So if you go back to the map, and Scarlett, my memory holds, we said, we'll make it LCR and put some dashed lines through it so people know that it's different. Now, granted, it should have been annotated or something else. So that's why it is the way that it is in the map. The typical process for an annexation is that there's an annexation that takes place first, and then there's a zone assignment. And both of those things actually go to Planning Commission first. I read this code that he had here, and I actually believe that we're in compliance with it, although I'm not an attorney. It went to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission said, here's what we would normally do in terms of a zone. And they held a public hearing with that, and here's what we would do it. And they made a recommendation to annex. I think that has been seen by Planning Commission. They've done that the same way we would do it if we did an annexation without a formal agreement like this. And now it's before us. The only difference is we're coming with an actual agreement that specifies the number of units and doesn't decouple those items of having the annexation take place first, followed by the zone assignment. Now, Ryan, how closely did I get that to what it should have been?
Almost spot on.
Okay, all right.
So having had two separate public hearings, one on annexation, one on zoning,
They've already been done.
we've essentially decoupled those by having two public hearings.
They are concurrent tracks, and we have had both public hearings were held. Because the zone assignment is held at Planning Commission and the annexation is held at City Council, but both public hearings have been held in that one. So if you had just a zone change, because that's the difference, is if you came in as ag and then you would go through instead of concurrent process, you would go in consecutive process. It would be the same. We're just, at this point, they're just concurrent processes. You can bring a piece of property in, it's already zoned as county. So when it transfers and comes across in the city, then it needs a zone. You can do that concurrently, and that's what traditionally happens. We marry those up and bring them in together. The attorney is correct. That was proposed by Visionary to bring it in with an ag, which was not seen as favorable. I would not say we go back to that.
There were twice as many people in the room objecting what was going on with that.
Yeah, and there was some confusion at. So it was confusing. That wasn't so. But at this point, we are down that road. We're the culmination of those two tracks, and this would be the time. Now you can delay. You could do it a different zone. The Planning Commission made a recommendation. You don't have to match your general plan. If you don't match your general plan, we do have to have the public hearing at Planning Commission. So if you brought it in as LCR, you brought in what the general plan was, the planning commission would not have would not have been required to hold their public hearing, because the public hearing was held at the general plan stage. This is not, so it required planning commission to hold an additional public hearing. Does that answer the question? Okay.
That's important. I did
It's
want
essential.
yeah, it's essential. I did want to make a couple of comments also on the annexation agreement. I visited with Dallas and I talked to him about some of the concerns and things that I have, and he included those in the concept plan, but they're not in the language of the agreement. The amenities is one of those, including that path along 300 East and continuing that landscape strip and trails. And he put that in the concept plan, which I really appreciate. I just feel like all of the things that have been discussed should be put in language, I guess. And so that was one of them. And another that I had written down was the alignment of the intersections, which I think is a best practice. Everyone that I spoke to kind of agreed that that was a good idea to align intersections between communities. And we did ask him to reduce the number of access points on that road to River Heights, which he, I think, has complied with that. So I feel like he's been really good to work with us and discuss things. But I get that some of those things get done in the planning process specifically. So that's where I'm not sure what we can include.
So I think the path is if you wanted the path included and you wanted in wording, you could amend the motion and add that.
We also add the path that is on the, well, I can't specify where it is.
Continuation of the
continuation of
the existing trail.
The existing trail or path.
Second. So look.
Can we have an amendment?
So you have a motion to amend. So we'd have to.
Oh, we have to vote on that.
You'd have to vote to add it to the motion.
So, okay, vote to add an amendment of the bill. So we vote for that one. All right.
Yeah, that would be, you would be adding that to the motion. You're not approving the motion
We're voting to add that to the,
for the annexation agreement.
right. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What we just approved was amending the motion.
Correct. The motion's still on the table. It's now amended. Now, some of the other items you had. So at that point, because the agreement with River Heights and the access there will need to come through the planning or the zoning process, the planning and zoning process, that's when we wouldn't have in here, because that needs to be worked out between cities and the developer on that access. And so that's still to come.
And that goes to the planning commission.
And that would go to the planning commission. So that wouldn't necessarily fit in the annexation, because we don't want to have a conflict. If River Heights says none, we don't want to require an access and have it exactly.
So another thing that Dallas and I discussed was having a connection between the sidewalk on the north side with Providence, with River Heights Elementary, because there is one county parcel and they said they're amenable to doing that. I don't know if that can be included or not, where you across the front of the Rounds and Pace properties that connects that county through that county parcel. You continue the sidewalk from
on 6 South.
yeah, 600 South and River Heights.
If we own the property or River Heights owns the property, we can require that like we did 300 South, because we own the property. But if you're now requiring them to go acquire property, then that becomes a taking that you're now taking in an agreement. No, we don't want to go that way. Now, I mean, that might be the intent, but
We'll do it if we can figure it out. I'm not gonna go buy property, but if you own it or they own it and they're willing to let us.
This is
You're willing to approach the county and request.
Now, this is on 600, which would be River Heights Road, right? That you're talking about?
This is for access to
On
the
a
elementary
county
school.
parcel, it's not a River Heights parcel.
It's their
but
protection strip on 600 South. you're talking about.
Oh, no,
the Sidewalk.
Well, it can't be required. I guess the point is, Dallas, you'll go to River Heights and to the county and see if they'll be efficient to put it in.
Okay.
Which is in the best interest of your development, because then your people can walk safely to school. Right, sensible.
Okay. Comments?
I have something to say. So there will be some people who leave here today unhappy, no matter what happens, that there would be people who leave unhappy. But I assure you with all of my heart that we are doing our very best to represent the people of Providence. None of us ran for city council for the fun of it or for the money. It's because we care deeply. We care deeply that things are done right. We care deeply about the citizens of Providence. We care deeply about the citizens of River Heights and of Millville and of Nibley and our neighboring towns. We care deeply about our children moving out of our basements someday too. We're concerned, just like you are, about house prices and inflation. We're concerned about overcrowded schools and streets. We are listening to you. We heard the vote and we care, and that's why we're here. Sometimes I feel like the city council, I remember watching this with the previous council, like that they turned into the enemies. And I want everyone who's listening to know that we are you. Like, we were sitting in those chairs before we were elected to council, and we cared enough to run for council because we wanted fair representation, and that's why we're here. And so, you know, if you leave mad because it passes or doesn't passes, or, you know, there's my husband, when I decided to run, he was like, you know, there will be people who hate you. And, you know, I'm okay with people hating me if I feel like I'm doing what's right. And so that's the thing I've been dying to say is that we are listening to you. We welcome your phone calls and your emails. And if you have a concern, you can call anyone on this council and we'll listen and we'll seriously consider. But we look beyond, we listen to those who are in the room, and we look beyond and really try to consider what's best for everyone and for the future. Like, we don't want the valley to be packed, but then again, I have 5 kids and so do you. And that's, population grows. And so thank you for listening to me share that we do here.
Thank you. The people on this council, we talk to people every day and we ask specifically how they feel about things. We live in a valley that everybody wants to live here. And I'll tell you that if we have smaller lots, it's going to make the homes a little bit more affordable. Do we control the cost of housing? No. None of us in this room know how to do that. It has nothing to do with the cost that it is to build the house. It has to do with the market. And the bigger the lot, the bigger the price. And I have a lot of children as well, and they need a place to live. And if they don't live in their own homes, guess where they live? In basements. And if you think parking is bad in a single family home, then it gets even worse when you've got another family of 5 living with you, because the parking is bad. So let's be proactive and provide a place that is a little bit more expensive, a little bit more affordable for people to buy so that they can live in their own home. And if we're doing half-acre lots, those are not affordable for most people.
I would venture to say that most people that own a home on a half-acre lot today, if they had to rebuy it, could not afford it. So are we compassionate in Providence? We're trying to be. We're trying to help people in a reasonable way to come and live here. Remember, all of you have a home now. Does that mean that nobody else can come now that you have yours? That is not the way it works. But let's plan and be reasonable. And save some open space. Let's make it so that it works for all of us. I would venture most of you, if you drove past a 6,000 square foot lot and an 8,000 square foot lot, could not tell the difference. So I would like to make sure that we are being flexible and that we're being compassionate. That's what we all say that we are. So with no more discussion, we have a motion to approve the agreement, the annexation agreement with the limit of 74 homes. I will take a vote now. All in favor? Aye.
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 Hey.
Okay, we have 3 ayes and 1 nay. Motion passes. Let's go now to the annexation. I will entertain a motion on the annexation.
Okay.
Can I add something to what you mentioned, Josh? I do feel like we made a long stride, but I know something else I think I felt like we've improved dramatically. Having seen LCR built, is we've changed the design standard. We will not get anything like Gateway or LCR built like that again in Providence. We've made those strides. We've made those code changes.
And this council didn't vote on either of those.
We voted on,
No,
we didn't
you
vote
voted
on
on
the
the original.
developments. Voted on the design standard has been changed. The open space has been increased. The amenities have changed. The way things have been handled has been changed. And I know it's just a beginning. It's just a beginning because we're going through the codification process and we're asking the Planning Commission to take a second look at all those things and make considerations for what we want, how we want things to feel, not just how many people we want to welcome. And I have spent time knocking doors in Vineyard quite a bit, and asking them what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what they would keep, what they would change. And I've gotten feedback on that. But one of the things I feel is super disheartening is that they were not part of this political process. And when they say things to me that we just don't understand why people don't want us here, I think it's really sad that that is how they feel. And I know that's not what we're trying to say. We're trying to just have a better input on the product and how things turn out. And we want a quality product for our residents long term. You know, we want them to have good draining. We want them to have good streets. We want them to have, you know, a good place to live. And I just feel like that we've made great strides that way with the roads. So many good strides. I really do feel like we've come a long way and made a good.
And having this behind us, we can be better neighbors and make sure they know that we care about them as individuals.
I even had someone say to me, you know, when they were building those homes on small lots, what's the name of the subdivision? Scarlett mentioned it.
Brookside?
Brookside. There was an uproar about those homes. And this person said, you know, I was a leader in that. I didn't want those homes to be built. But now that I know all those people, I really like them and I'm glad they're here.
So let's be who Providence is.
The next one, the next motion would be the annexation and zone assignment. Those two would go together with the agreement had to come first, but then just clarifying that those two come together now.
Okay.
Anyway,
So we need a motion.
I move that we approve the number here, resolution 015, correct?
07.
Oh, ordinance, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
07-022.
Ordinance 07-2022 and resolution 015-2022 Vineyard North Base annexation.
And zone assignment.
There's not.
So the ordinance of 07-2022 is the annexation petition and zone assignment of a single family high.
So
That's what.
There's my motion.
Okay, if you're approving that as drafted, that's what it
Okay.
is.
All right, so we have a motion on the table. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
I'm going to speak one more time. I just want to be really clear. It sounds like, and it's felt like at certain times tonight that we've been lecturing the people in the audience. I'm going to be really careful we don't do that. They're here to like help us and guide us and doing best we can. Appreciate you coming. I hope we've listened. I hope we've represented you tonight and always, but I don't want to give the impression that there's some sort of, we shouldn't be elevated up by a foot here on this dais. We should be down. So we're just be clear. It's felt a little bit that way tonight. It's made me a little uncomfortable. Glad you're here. You're our equals, you're our neighbors, and we're just here trying to make good decisions for you. So.
Okay. No more discussion? Okay, call.
I was just saying, I'm just thinking about all the comments that were given by the public tonight and the single family median request, and just wondering what the council thought about it.
Do you feel like the constriction of 74 units is the spirit of that, or do you know? Because I understand I understand the comment. I understand the concern of the lot size and the density, the number of homes in there. So
Right.
So my question is, do you feel like the 74 in the annexation agreement takes that into consideration? Because I know when they discussed it at the planning commission level, they all felt like with the consideration of the frontage and, corners and turns and all those kinds of things to make those adjustments, work. It requires a smaller, it requires different setbacks and different profile, right? So they made that stipulation in their recommendation to us, which is in the included ordinance. The motion that they gave that include that 74. So we did proceed with that recommendation, and it wasn't necessarily because we're trying to get more homes in there, but we're trying to turn out something that's nice and livable, and that will turn out nice.
Ultimately, I feel like we'll get a better product.
Can it not turn out nice with single family medium?
Well, I think what we're going to
R18.
This feels. I think we're very fortunate that we have a agreement that is as prescriptive as we can be. We're not allowed to be perfectly prescriptive, but I'm pretty sure Dallas is going to execute the concept plan he has. I don't think he's going to go back and draft and try to pull new stuff. It doesn't make financial sense. So I actually, of all the agreements we've approved and zoning, this is the one I feel the most comfortable about, because I have a very high confidence level that I'm actually going to get what it looks like on that concept plan. So in my mind, if you look at the concept plan and that's acceptable to each of us, then the agreement in single family that makes a lot of sense. They're going to execute it just as it was.
Because if we moved to medium, we wouldn't know what we were going to get.
We just have
We wouldn't
fewer
know.
homes.
We wouldn't know. There would be a few fewer homes, but how the loop would look, where the exits. how
Can we get the
exits
roads in
work.
there the way they are? And would we have to go back to trying to put driveways out, more driveways out onto the road?
Driveways on the street, in my opinion, because Carrie and I have a neighborhood where we missed the mark whenever that was approved. It wasn't us, but it was approved previously. It's a mess. It's a mess.
With driveways coming out.
It
onto the
is
road.
so much, and it's unsafe actually, but driveways coming out the road and you have people walking across the side, you increase the likelihood of pedestrian and vehicular traffic by doing that versus have a unified intersection. So I would hate to see that happen here. It just works so much better in my opinion.
I know I've had that concern brought up before that people don't want neighborhoods coming out on collective roads. They don't want driveways coming out there. Heard that from lots of people on the South Bench. And
Well, they drive on the north bench or the south bench and they see it, like it's crazy.
Well, and they park on the side road too in that way. So if you want people visiting and parking, if your driveway's in the front, they park in front of your house, they park on those collector roads. As here, as I believe on that one side of being turned in, the drivers in the development, you keep the cars and the traffic in the development. And with these roads, these are the wider standard 66-foot right of ways, unlike side roads. So I would rather see the development self-contained. I would think we'd see the impact of it a lot less.
having them.
I was driving the speed limit today, going up a hill, and someone whipped their door open. And it was right where all of those driveways are coming out. They whipped their door open and I thought I almost took off a door.
So a single
So
family
this gives
medium,
them-
you would have fewer homes if you wanted to keep the driveways inside and not on the outer roads, right? You'd have fewer homes.
Well, with a larger, with all of them required to be a larger lot size, the land comes from some, like, you cut out internal roads, I think, and force those driveways out on the exterior roads. My understanding of how that works. I'm not a developer. I don't really lay out lots, but that's my understanding from the conversations of what would happen.
What's the average size of lots in this concept plan?
Count them up.
Don't
Don't you have
I'm sure
several
know.
different sizes?
Some are
Can you
8,000,
tell
some are
us?
6,000. Most of them are 75.
Average, that's the average.
Corners will be bigger, houses have to be set back more, visibility has to be clear on corners, but other than that, yeah.
So what is the setback from a corner difference between single family high and single family medium? Scarlett, can you answer that?
10, 20.
I think there's that, I don't know whether Scarlett's on to answer that. But naturally you have to have a frontage. And so because of that frontage, if you bring a corner lot in, you have to set that house back far enough so that you can get that setback from the width of a lot width. So a corner comes down in, we count that setback from where it matches the width, and then we set back. So the lot has to be bigger. A pie shape just has to be bigger. In order to get that frontage, you have to have a pie shape bigger to get it than you do on individual set lots. Those corner ones just naturally have to be bigger. The lot has to be bigger to fit because of the frontage. Yeah.
But what about like a block?
An interior block corner.
They're probably the same,
Yeah.
they're both the same setbacks, if you guys know, you guys know, but,
Questions answered? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I,
Nay.
Okay. All ayes except one nay. Motion passes. So are we good on that one?
Yes,
Are we done?
that's the completion of that. Now I would go on to the next. Number 5.
Thank you. Quick brief water break, if that's okay, Mayor. Drink 5 minutes. Is that okay? I didn't bring water. I gotta drink something.
Yes.
Thanks for coming. Thanks. You wrote down spoke.
I wrote everybody's name.
Is that a? Pickleball is not. Okay. What was that? Pool, the rec, the clubhouse. Yeah. We'll have it.
Rob, I'm curious.
What?
That one block of road that you're talking about. How is that county?
County Road SR 238 runs from Indian Avenue, crosses Fort River, goes up in front of Millville. That kind of goes all the way to our first door. Right through
Out of there.
their road. That kind of goes all the way through River Heights, through their four-way stop here, towards there. That way.
Yeah.
Their town from third south. That's where the county road is.
I'm not sure if we've met.
Kind of a regional road.
No.
And they're trying to. be done with that.
And you didn't.
You pull them up in different. codes that have looked out over the years. I do this, I'm gonna. I don't like having, roads and but that one being such a regional road. Kind of makes a lot of sense. A lot of different ways for a lot of people.
When people start coming, if they're thinking about running, so you can think about it.
Regional. Around. Take a lot of the time. Outside. Roundabouts on it. Items like that. Things like that make damage. And I understand why.
Yeah. I got to stop doing that on May 31st, but I still try to go camping once a month for good measure. But it's nice to not be, it was an interesting trip,
Yeah.
Something I think that we need.
My friend, Bud Cohen.
I don't sit very well for long periods of time, to be honest.
You go to conferences, make a purpose, go take a seat and start, even if there's. I don't. Got restless. That was, well, we were going through this vineyard thing and stumbled on an old annexation.
Saw it, yeah.
One cousin there, I totally were. Side of the parcel. I forgot now.
It has a lot of units.
How are you? Often, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's not. So,
That was an easy one. But. That's what I'm dealt with outside of this.
referring that to. Make sure it's not.
How good your handwriting is, if I were to try to read it.
Martha's still alive, Craig died.
Hey.
I like it too. Like the. Know what's going on. And a lot of things I've found, meetings that I had. It's sad that citizens don't care enough, but I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
You know, I was at the last meeting where we were talking about the code and everything. And it's hard. You've been reading it, and I like.
That solves the problem.
Oh, and you turn the lights so don't get a headache at 10 o'clock.
Get lost.
The last couple of meetings, Kathleen turned so efficient that we haven't figured out. So.
I was trying to.
It's almost like right? That's really good. So I really feel like that's a good sign. Like, yeah. And but once again, I think that's because of misunderstanding.
Live, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm totally amazed at how. And I walked in here and.
Keep in mind, we still live stream, we don't pause. We're
Yeah, that's fine. Are there normally lights on in their parking lot outside?
oftentimes they're supposed to be, they're on a timer.
Control over it though, right?
It's the whole HOA thing. Yeah. So,
There's Jeff out there.
yes. Well, if you got a quorum, you can proceed, but he's here.
Let's resume the meeting. Okay, we have item number 5. Interlocal Cash Waste Consortium. If you remember, Logan is getting out of the trash business, and they are telling us that we need to do something else with our trash. The mayors have all gotten together and looked at what it could include. Either hauling our own trash or having issuing an RFP. That's a request for proposal. And so what the mayors have decided is to form an interlocal cash waste consortium, which includes the mayors of the cities. There are 18 mayors, and there
I think there are 15 left in the
15 left in the
consortium at this
consortium.
point.
And so hopefully you've all read the agreement. I read through that. Ryan, do you want to speak to this for a
Sure.
moment?
So we received the draft of this interlocal agreement from John Lucy, which is the attorney drafting for the mayor's group. We submitted it to our attorney, and you'll see most of those red lines. from our attorney, and I have made a few comments. We have presented this back as our feedback to the group of mayors, and they met yesterday and discussed some of them, a few of them, and I think one of the changes is to go to a representative for every city, but then have a smaller executive committee of 5. So 1 in the north, 1 in the south, 1 in the west, and 2 from the county. So that was one thing we had made quite a few comments on, is the makeup of the board, and that there wasn't a representation. So there is quite a few other comments. Most of them were not addressed, but at this point, we have not seen a new draft from that group. Based on the things we talked about yesterday, we haven't seen a new draft. There is some things that the committee, that committee recognizes are deficient, and that is an exit clause. At this point, if you enter into the agreement, enter into it, it's forbidden to exit as long as there is a hauler contracted. So you can't exit the agreement as long as there is a contract with a hauler. So anyway, just a point, and they recognize that exit is a mystery they haven't solved. So anyway, a few things that the mayor and I talked about as kind of options. We can continue with the consortium. The benefit of that is there's 15 cities currently in that, and some of them are as densely populated as we are, and some are not. And so there is some plus and minus to economy of scale, and how much that plays is somewhat still to be determined. We could proceed and exit out of the consortium. At this point, it's maybe a time window. If we continue down that road with them and pull out after the agreements and after a hauler, that becomes a difficult time to pull out once a hauler is selected. They did an RFP, but they isn't binding to them because they didn't have an entity yet. So they'll need to go out and do a whole new RFP system. We could go out and do our own RFP. Smithfield did that. 2 other cities have left, and seems like that's probably what they're doing. I don't know what the other 2 cities are doing, but Smithfield did do their own RFP. And the other option to be is to go like Logan does and get into that business. So I think there are three different options that are possibles. The red line agreement has been distributed to you previously, but that is as updated of agreement as we have. So that's why it's the one connected here. So we have no more agreement or update other than that. So anyway, trying to look for where we want to go to solve this. At this point, the exit date is July 1st of 23 for Logan. They'd like us out, but they have expressed that they'd rather us do it right than rush, and if they need to extend the time, they're open to that, and they have indicated that. So they'd like to make sure that they haven't left us high and dry. They're backing off on the kind of their time. There is a little bit of time frame because of the legislation that went into effect, and that's where the July really is pegged. If that legislation doesn't change, then I think they're still stuck to that. But anyway, questions, anything else I can answer for you on this one, or where the mayor's been involved. So
Oh, I'm assuming assuming you'll ask about legislative, what's gonna go on with that. Okay.
He's committed. He's already committed that he would do it.
Oh,
The
okay.
question is, it's easy to get a bill on and have people vote on it, but then to take it off is another deal. So he doesn't control whether or not the legislature is going
yeah,
to
he
take
can
it
get
off.
it on the docket, but the legislature will prioritize or whatever, and it may
Correct.
not, right, okay. So we should act as if there's emergency either way, because it's really kind of a roll of the dice.
Well, I think he's committed to
Yeah.
taking it off,
Yeah,
but is the rest of the legislature
okay.
committed to taking it off is the question.
And my other question, I'm gonna come clean here. We got this last night, which was late for me. Like, I mean, I had full night and then all day meeting stay. So I haven't been able to read. Is this substantially different than what I have seen previous?
This is the exact
Oh, it's
same,
Okay, I just
exactly
didn't know-
the same
I
as
just didn't know
you.
if anything had changed. This is what I
Nope.
saw last month. and I
Yep.
read last month.
Last month you got this, and we sent it to email because we were getting information just was kind of broadcasted.
I just wanted
But-
to tell you, I'd be concerned if there were a lot of things that changed.
There's nothing that's changed in this one. But the reason why we added this is it's the most recent document we have, and it is almost a month old. Because we have got no new data from, or no new agreement presented from the body. So this is what you've seen before. So
There's some changes to this. They're not a lot.
some changes that they've agreed to do, but haven't yet made, and so we haven't seen it in a
What
hard
types of
copy.
things are those, Captain? What?
Well, initially, there were going to be 2 representatives from north, south, and west, and then 3
Three from the
representatives
county.
from the county. And I suggested that 15 mayors is not really too large of a group. And that there could be an executive group
Oh, okay.
that represented and
But who would be voting?
they didn't
Who would
want
be
to
the
do that,
voting
but
members?
by the time we got to the end of the meeting, that's what we ended up with. We ended up all mayors, because when we make financial decisions, all mayors need to be involved, not just 2 from the south, 2 from the east, from the west, and 2 from the north.
So all 15 would have voting
So all
rights.
15 have voting rights. And it will be recommended, whatever the executive group recommends would go to the full group. But we in turn have to come back to our councils.
Yeah, sure.
So this wasn't, the reason why you got it yesterday last minute is because it wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, I know.
And then when I was reading the minutes yesterday at 4:30 PM, I was like, we need to bring this back up because I feel like there's urgency in getting in or out of the consortium. And after going to convention, my feelings about our discussion from last month had changed. Last month, we were like, well, let's keep moving forward with the consortium and, we'll see if they'll make these changes. And they are making some changes that I think will be good for the benefit of all. But in networking with people, it's particularly one conversation, and Janelle happened to be there with someone from Hurricane. And they're in a consortium, and he was so strongly thumbs down about control and representation and pricing. And I just feel like Logan's had us by the throat in a few things. And now we're just switching from Logan having us by the throat to a consortium having us by the throat. Where, if we did an RFP, then we could have potentially more control and we could move it over to in-house at some point in the future if that made more financial sense than subcontracting it out. But with the consortium, if we take too long going down that road, then we're stuck on that road because of the timeline.
And all 15 cities
Well,
have to
not
vote
only
on
that,
things.
the rest of the cities they're counting on us.
So if we're going to pull out, it needs to be now. So my opinion has, instead of like, well, let's keep wishy-washy exploring, maybe if they'll agree to these terms that our attorney has put forth, and Ryan and Kathleen are putting so much time into the research and the consortium. And my feeling is, I don't think this is going down the path that we want. I don't think
we're losing all of our runway.
and we're losing, we've got to have some time for an RFP or to figure out if we want to do it in-house.
Not only that, we have to give them.
And yes, and out of respect for the other cities, it's now or never.
Well,
So that's why I asked for it at 4:45, 15 minutes before the deadline yesterday.
That's what makes me concerned about, I get that our attorney wants the exit clause, but the exit clause that's not tied to a contract term. You get someone who pulls out in 180 days and the rest of the entities go ahead and absorb the contract, like they have to manage it independent. Am I wrong there?
Well, at this point, the exit is 12 months notice, I believe.
180 days.
Is it 180 days? I don't think that's what they talked about at the meeting, though.
That's what it's going to end up to be.
But let's say it's 180 days. I think that was his proposed change. Was that the draft? But that's his proposed change. I don't think that was accepted by, I think whatever the original was is there. But at that point, let's say one of these RFPs was a 10-year contract. So if the consortium picks that 10-year contract, then we're locked in for the 10 years. And then at the end of that, at the whatever it is before, if it's 180 days, if it's 6 months, a year, whatever that exit clause is, prior to that 10-year mark, then we would give notice. And that's the amount of the exit clause that's kind of drafted. But what isn't drafted is if the entity now, beyond this one, one of the other discussed changes, I don't know because I don't have it in draft, was a discussion of a assessment up front. So that maybe they needed $50,000 operating capital up front. And so they would put out an assessment of the city's initial assessment to draw in that beginning contributing beginning capital. But they could then spend to build and buy assets. If their assets exceeded their liabilities, if you exit, do you walk away, or do you get a portion of that? Do you get paid out somehow? But there's nothing, or if there's a liability, if the liabilities exceed the assets, then are you responsible to pay in? And if you don't have a pay in or cash out clause, then is it a race to who gets out last?
That's the scenario I was wondering about. If that's what I was worried about would happen.
So I just have a bad gut feeling about this. And I haven't been to the meetings, and maybe Kathleen feels differently, but because you've been representing us at the meetings, and quite honestly, last month I didn't want to pull the rug out from something you've been working on, but at this point, after having had,
we didn't really know what it all meant either.
right? Well, and I honor the time that you've spent working, on the consortium, and so I'd be interested in what you think, but my gut feeling is, we've seen what it looks like to be held by the throat, and it's really not that fun.
My feelings about it is, number one, I don't understand why we can't explore all of our options and still let this consortium continue to run its course. I feel like our residents deserve for us to explore all the options. There's no reason for us to not put out our own RFP, get our own numbers, and be able to line things up and say, okay, well, what makes the most fiscal sense for our community?
I think that makes sense, but to the other people, I think it feels a lot like, let's get engaged, but I'd like to date other people while we're recording here. I mean, that's seriously what it feels like.
And that's why
it's halfway in and halfway out. And I think other people are gonna do the same thing, and they're gonna fail too. It's just not enough of a commitment.
But how do you decide
Stu, if you only do it one person.
And that's why I'm saying.
And that's why she said, I feel like.
Yeah, Dave won this.
Sherry wanted the data.
Yeah, I didn't get married till I was 25.
Did lots of guys.
I dated 2.5 weeks before I got engaged, and it was the same.
And it was right.
So it depends on who it is, but one of those, just a thought, is if you go wrong and do all the options, if you put out an RFP, we'll be ready to issue it tomorrow. We can be. If you're ready to issue that, then at that point, the consortium won't be ready to formulate an agreement, a entity. I think they were talking that they would need, they wouldn't be able to make the July 1st. They were pretty sure they couldn't make July 1st, but they were thinking they'd need another year or so before they could really have everything established, because
To not be part of the consortium. Are you talking about the RFP?
well, the RFP, but having them be out of Logan's, even if they did the RFP, once they could get their organization, then they issued the RFP. Weren't they saying that it was going to take them at least a year longer to be up and running?
A year to be up and running.
So at that point, even if they had their organization by the end of the year, and took a year, they wouldn't be ready before July 1st. The hauler or whoever couldn't leave Logan, right? They couldn't make, well, they can't make July 1st of 2023. My point, and I'll go to there. My point is that if you do your RFP and you have your numbers, in order for you to hold your hauler into those numbers until the consortium has theirs, that's a long time and difference. And I don't know that your responses to your RFPs will wait that long. I guess that's my point, not however they're ready, but.
Well, we've gotten responses from the unofficial RFP that we sent out. And we've done an analysis on what it will cost. And to do that, we've got an analysis of what it would cost for us to do our own. But we don't have an RFP that is just ours.
Oh, but we do have an analysis of what it would cost to do our own.
Yes.
Oh, and
You're talking about the whole consortium, right? You have an RFP for the.
No.
Just for Providence.
Well, we have an RFP for the whole consortium.
But we have an analysis of what it costs to do our own. Are you at liberty to say what the differential is there? Is a percentage, not as an absolute? How much savings percentage? I would think you could do that.
It's right now, it's not apples to apples.
Not apples to apples. Okay. And is it not apples to apples? Because I was wondering if we do it ourselves, is there, what's the administrative cost of that? I'm assuming in a consortium, you almost have like a service center that kind of manages things, and that costs something versus we have to spin up, ops billing, everything else, that would take to. So
it's a great question. We already do the billing. And we already take a lot of the response calls for that. Our ramping up is more in a few drivers, be able to buy trucks that could operate and the.
So the hauler doesn't do that. We supply the.
Well, no. If we operated on our own, then we would have a significant investment that we would need to do trucks. Now, if we do an RFP and we hire a hauler, that they have the trucks, and
We'll have the labor.
yes, so I think there's really.
Hauler, they provide that with. But from the billing side.
You pay for it either way.
You pay for it either way, but you can kind of look at who can go more efficient. Like professional service do it better. Like, I don't know, Rob, have you ever run a garbage hauling operation before?
So many variables.
So many variables. Yeah, I did.
So little time.
Right.
That was one like instance too. It's like.
But if we go on our own, we would have to have a shop facility. we'd have to have at least 2 vehicles, maybe 3. We'd have to have at least 2 staff. We would have to ramp up. We figure there's, there's abilities, but there's unknowns. So at that point, we do have an analysis of that. And we have been in communication with Logan to compare our numbers with theirs to see if it's realistic, because they operate one, we don't, but there is some unknown, and they've said it's in the ballpark. But there's still a lot of unknown. I mean, if we get in and do an RFP and we do it for 5 years, we don't have to do the initial investment in trucks we're less of an initial investment. So obviously, there's some savings in money and time on the front end. But how efficient it is or whatever on the long end is to be seen. That hauler is probably not here in the valley, because there's not. I mean, the Logan's one here in the valley. So they'd need to have some equipment and install. But I think for us, Smithfield is going to hit that date. They are hitting with a hauler. They're hitting the, but they have a hauler. They're not running like Logan. So I think there's really kind of those 3 options. There's hybrids of all of those 3 options. But there is those kind of 3 options of do it our own, like Logan, do it like Smithfield and have an RFP, or stay in the consortium and do that. We can issue an RFP and find out our number. And if we hate it, I guess, that's maybe considering our options of the consortium. But then that's like, the date to the prom, you've just maybe dated somebody else and then made sure that it was right. And I don't know, maybe that's, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
If we break up with the consortium, there's no getting back in.
Oh, you think so? Like as for the bridge? I kind of wish when we put fiber in, we would put those tubes in that they have at the bank where you like they suck stuff up and they can just toss their trash.
Everyone just
So-
put their, I kick.
On the floor.
I propose we not do that at this point.
Can we do what Smithfield did then? We can do that.
We issue an RFP like Smithfield?
Yeah.
Sure, I have theirs.
And their numbers. Have you talked to the mayors from the other cities, Smithfield, Richmond, Lewiston, Cornish? Have you talked to those mayors and asked them? Have they shared
I
their
have
thoughts
not.
about why they're not? Join? You don't know.
So I like managing my own destiny.
Thank
in
you,
almost all
Carrie.
instances.
I like your thoughts, Carrie. I don't want to be a part of the creation of another county-wide government entity that's controlling things, but have the control within our own local government.
It seems like the county wants a lot of the control too, more than their population justifies. I don't know. So I feel like we break up.
You text them or call them?
I think we send a representative. I think maybe
You on the last day.
you can send me to Slaughter if you want. I'll go and deliver the news.
I'm a big girl.
I know you are.
It's not you, it's us.
Yeah, it's not me, it's my council.
Well, the issue is that the council, even though the mayors sit on this broad consortium, when financial decisions are made, I would have to come back to the council. When contractual agreements are made, I would have to come back to the council to show why those agreements were made. So it becomes really cumbersome to do that. I'm not lobbying to be making those decisions, but I'm just telling you that this consortium is going to make decisions, and then everybody has to go out and talk with their councils Although some of them sound like they're not gonna have to go back.
Some of them are not sounding like they're gonna do that, that
I don't
they've
know,
got
they're
their
gonna give, like,
council,
voting rights or.
that they're giving
That's
all of
controlling
this.
the mayor?
Yeah, I think that some are talking like they're giving vesting power to do all of that, to do whatever and all of that at the mayor or whatever, or whoever represents them. I think some of them are talking that they already have that somehow.
Well, and for smaller cities, I really see the need to join together. But I feel like we have, I know that there would need more manpower and that this is not an easy or inexpensive thing. But I think that we've got the brains and the capability within our staff to do it right.
Not that the staff needs to do it, we can hire business contract like Smithville does. I like that.
Well, that's an
option.
RFP.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but
I like
the
the
staff,
Smithfield option over.
the staff has to.
I think that it's only, we need to be sensitive to the load we're putting on our staff.
Yeah, I like.
I agree with
At its base, I mean, without looking at the cost, I tend to like the idea of not investing in all of the equipment and infrastructure and logistics to do it, but I don't know, we can run both the scenarios on paper, I can pencil it out.
And if we go out to RFP, then we'll have a lot clearer idea of what that pencil looks like for that one. We have Smithfields and we know if we get an RFP similar to Smithfield, I've done the calculation of what that would be for us based on their selection.
We're 2,400, they're 3,400. They've got 1,000 more households.
Right.
What do, we've talked before that we feel like we ought to provide equal service to what we've been getting. What is, looking at what they have, just rough estimates, are we going to be able to get roughly the costs that we paid?
So I think we're within $3,000. I think Smithfield's going to pay a little bit more than what.
Well, I'm talking about charge for resident.
I mean total.
So it's so close.
It's close.
Close.
Really
Close
close.
to what we have now.
Right.
Well, pennies.
Right. Pennies to resident.
It's really the headache to our staff. I mean, that's the worst part. And mayor.
Well, in the proposal, there's more staff.
Yeah, right. Which is added headache.
Well, for an RFP, at that point, if it's an RFP and we have that, it's like dealing with Logan hauling and coordinating that effort, what we're doing anyway. We just don't have Logan on that side. We have a hauler on that side.
Collect, and they charge us for what they collect.
So the headache is getting the RFP and the contractor.
Yeah. And honestly, with Smithfield's example, the RFP is drafted.
Yay, thank you, Smithfield.
So.
I would just say something to what you said, Mayor, about how the mayors have to come back to the council. The way that this is written up, if the mayors are all voting members, and this entity has the right by state code to levy a tax, it might be good policy and practice to go back to a council, but they don't have to. They don't have to, the way this is written.
Well, I'm not in favor of timeline for timeline and cost alone. So I don't know, how do other people feel? Carrie, I think.
Yeah, I could make a motion if.
I don't know if we need a motion.
I think a motion is it's on here that you can make a motion. I think may take action. So it's worded. I think as clear direction as you can give us is best. I don't know, Mayor, how would you want it to go?
The question here is, do we stay in this consortium or do we go off on our own? If we say we're going to go off on our own, then there are two tracks. One is an RFP, one is to be in business for ourselves.
But we don't have to decide on that. We can just
No.
decide to go off on our
And we
own.
don't have to make a motion. You can just administratively go ahead and put on our peer. Do we have to vote to put on?
Well, I could just make the motion that we exit the Cash Water Consortium
No
and move
water.
forward garbage. Sorry. Waste
Waste, not water.
consortium and move in the direction of an RFP or doing it on our own.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Kathleen, I'd be interested where you stand on this, where you've done so much legwork. Like, does it give you heartburn that to exit?
The only heartburn that I have is that we're this far down the road. And I do have some empathy for the smaller cities because they are not in as good a position as we are. I don't remember, was it Trenton, one of the small cities? Their road budget for the year is like $50,000.
Yes, but I would point out they get the same number, same dollar amount per mile of road that we get. We have more miles.
That's my only hesitation, I think, with the consortium. We've drawn it up, we've talked about it, we've changed things. I truly feel like there are a lot of things that are going to come up that we haven't addressed in here that might become an issue for us. And the fact that we're in a contract for, I think that the lowest was 5 years.
Yeah, I think.
So you're saying that's a concern? Or it's
right, and the consortium can meet and say, okay, it's only costing us $12 per can per household to pick it up, but we now want to charge $15 per household to pick it up. And then everybody votes and says, okay, that's what we're going to do. So then we'll start building a pot of money. So we will have paid into that pot of money. And if later on we have to stay for the 5 years for the contract that is signed, and then if we say we want to get out, do we get our investment back? We haven't defined that yet. We don't know that. And so we are not in control of our destiny. And I think it's going to be more complicated than we think.
The consortium or our own RFP?
The consortium.
Yeah, so you feel okay, even though you feel empathy for the smaller cities.
Right.
And that empathy, I feel like the work that you two and our attorney have done will really, and the moving forward, the direction that you've helped them to move will really help everyone. Even though we're exiting, like it was for the benefit of the consortium, the suggestions that were made.
I think the biggest issue for me is the complications that are going to come about. The consortium is talking about collecting money and then perhaps doing a transfer station or perhaps buying into the landfill. The cleanest way would be if the county would step up and be the garbage haulers.
They want control, but they don't want it.
I don't know that the county wants control. I think that I don't know, what would you say, Ryan? That I don't think they stepped up and said, we want 3 seats.
That's the word I got from the discussion I had, was exactly they wanted 3 seats.
That they want 3 seats.
And that they felt like they were
They want the upside.
They have 100% of the seats today. They have 100% of the seats today because they are they draw this back that nobody ever knew, but there was an entity of it's not a special service district, but somewhere similar to a special service district, a district of some type. And the Cache County Council is the board of that district, and that district was the one that had the contract with Logan the cities did not have a contract directly with Logan. We contracted with the district, and the district was the county council. That's why when Mayor Daines or Logan is contacting and giving information, they're issuing it to the county. That's why they exited from the county, because the contract with Logan was with the county. And then we had it, well, with the district that the county was the board of. And now they're opening that board up to members of the cities. But they want to, I don't think they want to lose total control of that board that they had total control before. That is the discussion I've received.
So he has more information.
So that, thanks for the vote.
Do you feel like there's repercussions?
Yeah.
Do you feel
What
like
I'm
there's,
voting.
do you feel like there's any long-term repercussion for Providence if the consortium buys into the landfill and we are contracting with the hauler and paying tippage and all those things, that we're gonna get blowback from the consortium in the long run? Or regardless of whether they buy in or not? I don't know if that is making sense what I'm saying, but you're saying they're gonna penalize us if we're breaking up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds ridiculous.
Well, I think I don't think it's totally ridiculous. I would think that they probably, you get better rates if you're a member or something. That's kind of how it works.
Well, there's strength in numbers.
Yeah. And I would expect they probably would charge you.
And that's why they wanted to have everyone, all the mayors, but Smithfield backed out. And then, is it Trenton?
I think it's Richmond and Lewiston.
Richmond, Lewiston, and Cornish.
And I don't know whether Cornish, I don't know how theirs was. I don't know whether, I
The
mean,
county is talking about buying the landfill from Logan. The old one? Are they buying the old one or the new one?
I think the new one.
They're talking about buying the new one,
I thought they were talking about the new one because the old one's
almost
being,
full.
yeah, reclaimed, I think.
Where are you sitting, here? We have.
I think that we should do an RFP. I just think that we should, not be short-sighted about it. A little bit down the road and make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for a mess.
So you think we could do parallel tracks?
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to do the parallel track. I mean, I don't consider myself to be a player, but maybe I am. I don't know.
Parallel track, meaning
We should
Meeting two people at the same time.
Oh,
Day.
we should be able to look at all of our options and there's blowback for it. I just think that that's kind of petty. That's my opinion,
I
but
don't think there'd be any blowback. I just think that we have more
just do
control.
what's better
and we
best
may-
for our residents and that's that. And I am a proponent of information. I feel like information helps us make good decisions. I don't think just going off of what the consortium is putting together is being thorough.
So I don't know, I could see at least a couple actions. One, the consortium could, could really, they could perceive that really badly, and it could kind of start to fracture the consortium other ways. I could also see it making the consortium behave a little bit better. Does that make sense? If they know there's some competition, like someone that people have options, they may be like, the county may be like, well, we need, we really want Providence, we may play a little nicer, we may feel a little better.
Well, I don't think they've played badly. I don't want to give the impression that they haven't done everything that they can do to make this be a smooth working process. So everything they've done was to try to accommodate hauling garbage for the rest of the county, because Logan is only going to do Logan. And so we put together this group of mayors to say, okay, help, what is it that we're going to do in order to make this work? And
they came up with the idea to do the consortium. But it's not an easy process. It is not a simple process. And it involves creating another government entity that has to have support. It's a board, so there has to be insurance for the board. There has to be a clerical function.
Has to be an audit, has to have an audit.
It has to have an audit. So that, and there has to be some accounting done somewhere. So we've got now another government entity to control the collection of garbage for a collection of cities.
I get that. I just.
Is it worth it to pay a little more to maintain autonomy?
That's what I'm wondering. The guy who put it up, just a parallel here, and it's probably maybe what your networking was like when you had this conversation with this gentleman. I don't know what that was, but the gentleman who put together this, this trail that I went on, it's like 4 or 5 miles down at the ULCT conference. He was saying, I had to work with like these 5 entities, and he's like, this project cost 3 times as much as it should have, and it took like 5 times as long. We could have done it that much easier and that much cheaper. Had I didn't have to go ahead and get approvals of all these people and work this out and everything else. That just sounds like, I don't know, whenever possible, I believe that less bureaucracy and less government layers is generally a good thing. That we're a large enough business, if you will, or a large enough enterprise that we get to see some efficiencies because of that. But we're also not so small that we can't do it effectively. I think we're probably good size to pull that off.
Well, it would take us 2 trucks to do our city.
That doesn't seem like a lot to me for some reason.
Well, those trucks are kind of pricey.
Tanners.
No.
Oh, I'm sure they're pricey. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they're really expensive, which is why I would say, like, well, let's just pencil that out and look to see what a hauler would be, because I don't know if I'm interested in making all the.
Who has excess trucks now?
Logan has a whole lot of excess trucks and a whole lot of excess garbage cans.
Yeah, well, are they giving them the DI?
I could ask.
But sometimes it's supply and demand. I mean, we wouldn't have to buy new trucks. But of course, Ryan would run those numbers and help us make an educated decision. But the question, and the reason why I wanted this on the agenda is because are you in or are you out for the consortium? If we can date both, great. But my impression was that we have to be in or we have to be out of the consortium. Like we can't.
Well, in all fairness to the consortium, if we're out, we need to tell them.
So I don't understand why we
it's
can't.
Respectful. If we pulled out 4 months from now when we got the RFP, that would be.
Well, we
really
issued an RFP, but it was an unofficial RFP because
You have to have numbers.
Well, you have to have an entity
I understand.
to be able to
I get that.
issue
But
one.
your point is we need to give them the courtesy of not pulling out 3.
Right.
And that's why I felt it was urgent, even though I would like to date both.
So my question to you is, why is it a no-go to get back in if we get out? If they're trying to make it smooth for everyone, why is that the perception that if we,
Correct.
do you know what I'm saying? Like, why is it that you can't get back into this consortium? What is the one you've got?
Well, we will have paid money into the consortium to pay for the staff, to
At
pay
what
for the
point?
insurance upfront
Okay,
to start with. And
Ryan said it's
then,
gonna take them 1.5 years to get their ducks in a row to actually create this consortium.
well, and then when we collect money for garbage removal, there will be an extra charge on that will go into a fund.
Right, for owning.
So Janelle, my question would be, can we, kind of a comment, but we can issue an RFP. When would you like us to do that if we're dating both? But the minute we do that and we have results back, we gotta say, okay, we can get one set of results. We can go out, get the RFP, get our numbers. And at that point, we could do that still dating both, but at some spot, we'll have to commit to one or the other at some point. That's the question. When would you like to do that?
Get our RFP. Or you think that's that one? You have to keep me in mind. You can tell me.
I think
This is a rose ceremony. Do you give out 2 roses at this point? Do you give out 1? I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
You give them a kiss along with it?
Oh, no. I'm happy to send an RFP if that's what you want. I'm happy to do numbers with other options if that's what you want. If we want to stay in the kids' room.
and the other numbers and consider doing it on our own. I think that should be compared to the RFP.
Well, we can agree with that, but I actually think Kathleen's voice on whether or not notifying them later is appropriate or now, she's probably the best person to make that call. I think she's been participating in the group. She would know whether or not we're at a.
Well, we're one of the bigger
We're at
cities.
an inflection point, right? Are we or are we?
We're one of the bigger cities. There's Hiram are they bigger than that?
They're about the same size, I would say. I would say North Logan is probably bigger than we are. I think
They
they're,
have more commercial cans. than
they
we
do have
too.
definitely more commercial,
Roll-offs or whatever you call
right,
it. Bins.
dumpsters, whatever. North Logan would be bigger. Hiram is probably in the same size. Smithfield's off the table. I knew they were larger and they're off the table. So Nibley's roughly similar size that we are, plus or minus. Are we all in, or we can take all the metaphors we want?
The other. I personally feel like there's a clear choice, but if we don't have to choose. We have to choose.
Well, the issues, what do you see the issues are? We've got this bigger group of mayors that are distilled down. There's an executive group that will come up with ideas, present it to the other mayors, and whatever the mayors say, then I would have to come back to you to say, here's their decision. Do you want to go with this decision?
Okay, so what you're saying is you can't say yet. Am I reading you right? I think that was pretty. I think we got 3 choices. Do we have to break that down? Do we not have to break it down? Or we really can't say. We just don't know.
Do you know, I don't know what they're doing about the exit. Was John Luthi going to write that up and present it? You were in the same meeting I was in.
I think there was a subcommittee that they were going to have, but
come up with that.
But they made it clear that the managers were not allowed on the subcommittee. So I took my marching order and knew that I didn't even get a chance to touch the ball. So I went home.
And that's what I figured because I had to catch a plane. So we haven't seen the updated agreement to sign. But I've told them all along that whatever decisions were made, I would have to bring them back to the council because they involve contracting and they involve money.
I think getting your answer. So we're at least a month away. Because you're going to have to come back, maybe 2 months and get back, and you got to meet with them. And that's assuming agreement.
Well,
If you make sure you use your mic, if they listen to the recording, they can't.
Yeah, kids are always telling me if I talk too loud. So here I can talk loud.
They can turn their computer down.
I don't know. I just see I see the clock ticking, and I'm grateful that Logan is willing to be flexible, but I don't know what that will look like. And my worst case scenario is people start garbage starts piling up at their house, or, you know, things get.
Logan, trust me, Logan does not want that to happen. He'll make the national news.
They'll make the national news, and maybe we want that, I don't know.
None of us want that. No.
That might deter more people from moving here, I don't know. I think we had a motion, and a second, I think we should vote on it, I think I know how I want to vote on it.
Repeat the motion.
Carrie made it.
Yeah, that we sever the interlocal cash waste consortium and move in the direction of RFP or doing waste removal on our own.
Okay,
I don't know if she used the word sever, it's a hard word, but I'll go with it, I think the intent is there.
and you realize
What
that
was the word I used, Ty?
Motion to exit.
I like
Exit,
exit better than sever.
exit.
okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
So motion carries. I will let them know.
Can we make up then, like after this break?
Can we still be friends?
Can we still be friends?
I would like to still be friends with them. Like, sometimes you break up and you get back together.
Well-
And there's a really, they say that you can't do that, but I don't think that it's an
I
impossibility.
don't think it's a possibility too, but I also think that we have a much better likelihood of still being friends if we communicate early rather than late. That in my mind, that's just disrespectful. That's
Can we
just
still go to the dump?
Mhm.
Can we still go to the dump?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
landfill. We go land.
The
Landfill.
landfill
The landfill.
is, the new one is kind of a long way away.
Out past. Parks.
And I hope
It's a
this
long way
does
to
not mean that we don't appreciate the light work that went into it, because it was kind of like a kind of button that everybody was trying to like, oh no, what are we gonna do?
And essential, like, to explore the option. Like, initially, I really didn't think I couldn't see a way that we could do it by ourselves. I felt like we needed numbers. We needed
Well,
other cities.
Smithfield backed out before they had numbers. And now, is theirs comparable to the other numbers that we saw?
Smithfield is comparable to what they're paying Logan. They are raising their rates slightly. But theirs is comparable to what they were paying. What if we had been them, what we would have paid Logan. I didn't do it off of their numbers. I did it off of ours. So I can't say what Smithfield is doing. I do know that the discussion was that Smithfield is discussing raising their rates at some amount, not a large amount, but a small amount to do that. So
Our RFP include like the same level of service that we have that has the regular garbage, recycling, green waste can be broken.
I'll send you the RFP in the morning, and you can take a look and give me whatever feedback you'd like.
Or reading. I know, I'm really good at that.
Send it to Janelle.
It sounded like you like it. I'll send it to you in the morning.
The RFP does ask for all of those services.
I'll just double check.
Sounds like you're getting to know me really well, Carrie.
Right. Well, and I do want to get, staff input as we move forward on this. Because I do want to be sensitive to the load that we really like you, Rob. We don't want to burn you out. So I hope you know that.
There is staff involvement in both other options that you're entertaining here. The RFP, we will have staff involvement in a big way compared to what we're doing. We will probably own the cans, the dumpsters, maintain them, buy them, junk them. There'll be some staff parts of this scenario, no matter how you spin it. Which is fine.
We have faith in you.
We just got, yeah, if we can do fiber, we can do garbage.
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned.
So, who have we got on first here?
I've excused Scarlett with her being away in her. So we'll start with we can start with Rob.
So I'll just start with the forecast is looking like it's gonna change, which is on our doorstep. So we're suiting up plows. We're getting ready to rock the snow melt. So frozen wasteland might be upon us. At least that's the way my street department's treating this week. So, so we're getting ready for it. Projects, luckily first out, like we're gonna get pavement for frozen wasteland hits us, which is great news. They might have a little bit of a hiccup depending on how today, tomorrow, the next day really go. But they've made a lot of progress in the last few days, so that's very promising. It's still very weather pending on how far they'll truly get to the completion of this project this year versus next spring, because I can see weather slowing some things down like the sidewalk and the landscaping, things like that, that'll probably push spring. But get our pavement down and all those little loose ends, you know, stop sign or something, I'll be feeling a whole lot better about frozen ground. So that project's been promising. We're gonna make a couple of crucial deadlines. The new tank project, it's 100% complete. It's great to see that complete. There is a couple of little last, you know, dollars and cents things to close it out completely, but it's done. As far as project that going on the cemetery, so we finally have the ability to go vertical with that. Now Spinner's trying to mobilize to get that going vertical, the storage building. So those are the main projects that try to get tidied up this year.
I saw some scraping up on the tank at the mouth of Prov Canyon.
Yeah, what was that?
What's going on there?
A little side project, I guess we were doing. I think you're referring to Red Reservoir's bladder. We put a rubber bladder over the top of our old existing tank at the mouth of the canyon. Because of the inspection that we did, that we decided that to be proactive in protecting that tank. And so we removed the dirt. We put on a protective rubber bladder, and then we put on a fabric to protect that, and then sand, and that's what's been happening in the last few days up there. It's covering that back up. So that project was actually done really quite well and fast. So I'm glad you brought that in.
Thank you.
That's not done.
Budgeted side project.
A budgeted
We have a
side
few,
track.
yeah, we have a few budgeted side projects.
Isn't that in the water master plan? Put that on the.
Yeah, nice
Yeah,
work.
yes.
Yeah, we added it. Had that inspection report. And how we were creating master plans.
We need other stuff.
And keep the water in there.
Thanks for all your hard work.
And
Wait, and leaf collection, that was in the newsletter. You're going to be doing leaf
Yeah,
collection.
we still do leaf bags. We do have some staff like us to at some point look at abolishing that service, because it is a very contentious service and it has lots of little snaggles and problems when it comes to public relations.
Might be nice to include it in the garbage RFP.
Yeah,
Something
that's,
that
I was actually
I mean,
just.
I'll bring it up since my staff has asked me if we've had to look at that service, and why we still do it. And I personally see some good benefit to it in the stormwater realms.
So
And-
people don't break into the
Yeah, the
ditches.
ditches, the gutters will become worse if we don't do this service. Flooding is always a concern. And so, and it is a good service. And as long as you can afford to do, if it pencils out, and you manage to help our citizens in that way, it's a great service, but it has its snaggles and it isn't.
Why is it contentious?
Because of the timelines. We try to go through the town over and over and over again, so it's kind of time consuming for our crews to continue scouring
driving
every
around.
road, because we don't have there's not a good systematic way to do it because of weather and people's.
And trees, leaves fall at different
Yeah.
rates, right?
Yeah, you got different breeds of trees that do their thing, and it's difficult to please everybody at the timely manner. And once those bags start getting buried in snow, it's tough for us to keep doing that, because we got other things to be worrying about at that
Snow
time.
removal.
Right, and so there's usually a few bags buried in snow and people want us to come back and back and back. And but we do have the equipment, manpower to handle it still. So I'm not wanting to bring that, abolish it to the table this year at least.
Have a date cut off? Or you just do it when the
It's
weather
kind of when the
changes?
weather changes, the leaves deplete, our time is able to handle picking them up.
Is it the first snowstorm?
No, we usually throw quite a bit of snow. But it depends on the amount of snow and what kind of waves of snow we get. And that's why it's the hard one to have dates on.
You gotta
Well,
measure,
leaves don't fall till really after the first.
when they get them in bags, they have to take them to the landfill, cut open the bag and take the bag back and dump all the leaves back out.
Trucks and we open bags.
It's a huge service. It's a huge service.
Well, one year I decided that we could put that in our sheds for our cows. So I had them drop off bags. You have no idea how hard it is to open all those bags of wet leaves.
When they get
In many
wet,
cases.
yeah, people bag their wet leaves and they're buried in snow. It's not the most
They're
pleasant
heavy.
They
project.
freeze
They're
together
unwieldy.
probably, right?
It was a huge mess. It just was, so I certainly have empathy for the crew doing
But on
that.
the flip side, it's hard to see, the repercussions of not doing that, because there's a lot of ditches and a lot of storm drains and grates and pipes that can be plugged up. And it's a bad time of year to have our road culverts plugged up. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work.
We can make it smoother. Let us know.
Put it in our.
Less trees,
Okay. I wrote
less
that
park
down.
fruit trees. Lehigh has an option.
When you post this online, so we can look at it, take
Oh,
time
good.
to look at it. Looks really nice.
Thank you.
We've got the hyperlinks in there, so it's really cool. As you've heard, we are moving forward with tweaking a few things, so you'll see that next one. Next Wednesday, we have planning commission. They have a public hearing for that ordinance that was talked about today, where we're changing the zone designation, so we'll see that in November. We'll have a public hearing for that. Moderate income change for the general plan for state requirement. We also see that in November as well. Other than that, that's all I got.
Why are we changing the moderate income housing plan? Because I thought we turned in our report already.
We've turned in our report, the changes are to make it so that it is exact wording with the state code rather than our interpretive language of the state code. We're close, but we're not exact, and the state wants it exact what they want. And well, they haven't, but we're expecting that they may, and we're trying to be proactive to their demands.
I have a question about the accessory dwelling units in the moderate income housing because where the state has said that it's required in every city, is it still a viable option on the moderate income housing plan, or do we have to do something new?
No, we still included in our moderate income housing plan.
It still qualifies.
Correct. Still on the list.
We just need to identify those that are being used and we don't know about.
There's a lot we probably don't know about. So we would to report that because internal ADUs, we don't have a lot of regulation over. We're not having those reporting to us. And so there's housing stock that isn't known.
Why do we want that information? Not so much that we're trying to help this business.
Well, we're not trying to tax people extra or anything, but we do need to know if there is another family living within.
If they at least have another unit, regardless of whether it's occupied or not, right?
Keep in mind, if you have 12,000 units needed in the valley, and we only count ones that are not vacation rentals. We count the single family housing, and when we start to limit and don't know of ADUs, the potential of an overbuild or a potential of more units being constructed we won't necessarily know when that hits until it's already hit. And that would be the concern, right? If we don't know and we can't determine the housing stock really needed, then how do we make sure that we don't over approve? And there's been more approved in the state, more housing approved in the state than ever before. And if that's the case, and then all the ADUs are still part of that market, then you have to add those to it. At what point are we working towards a bubble rather than a affordable housing? And I don't know that we'll know.
Do we really have the right numbers?
Yeah, that's
And are we telling
the struggle.
everybody they have to do more, when in reality, there's more than we counted? So then we create a problem in the state where we'll have an overabundance of homes.
And we may have affordable housing then.
The market will.
Las Vegas certainly did when they hit it. But anyway, yeah, some really good news on that, Rob. You know, it always is because Rob and I work so closely to plan my report around some of his is fun, and he is great. But yes, we have finished up the tank, and we met with the contractor and the engineers, and have wrapped that thing up in almost all ways. Got down to it. It overran time and a little money here and there, and there were some delays for this and that. But overall, we've come back, and in the end, to be able to leave that group, having had our fists and fights out, and had our dukes out, and go away as friends, and that is important. And that was said and made sure that when we leave these, when we finish up a job, whether it's gone well or not, that we leave as friends, because the next job's right around the corner. And we do make sure we try to keep those good relationships with our engineers and with our contractors, even if it's hard and difficult in the middle of the construction. Some projects are behind schedule, and we're working to catch them up, and some are running as well as we'd like. We had some problems with the cemetery. We had it formed, but now we're past, and we're ready to pour. I think that's going to be poured this week or next, first to next, right? I think they had to. So, honestly, what's going to happen this week alone is fairly amazing, because we'll potentially pay for south for the foundation for the cemetery building. This week we just turned on another section, another pond cabinet for fiber. And so a lot of those things have a lot of work to get up to them. And then we have that in waves. You mentioned it comes in waves. This week is a big one for us, and a lot of things are going on. And we're excited for them. But fiber is going in. We have 3 pond cabinets that are connected out of 5. And we're making progress. We're making a lot of good progress towards that construction, and it takes a lot of time and effort. I appreciate those that have responded. We had a survey to try to give feedback, and assuming those I sent you have responded, I responded to all the others, and we've probably responded to almost everybody that either wanted a response or was even willing to take a response. I think we've made a valiant effort there. So anyway, I think it's making progress, although there are complaints of problems that go on during construction. And keep in mind, it's always messy during construction, but it's the end product that we're looking towards. We have several things that are going on in our code. We are working down some of those. If you have a particular one that you want us to put on the docket next, let us know your next ones that are most important to you as we're working through, so we can make sure that we keep that in mind. We want to keep a balance of ones that we can manage our staff time on, but also we want to have your priorities on those as we go. So keep that in mind. Anyway, anything I can answer for, anything you have questions about, anything that's going on that I can help answer for you.
I have a question.
Let's go for it.
So I've been getting calls about dangling wires. I just want to make sure that my understanding is correct, that when every resident is expected to have a box to their house, not dangling wires. That's part of what we proposed, right? And an optical network terminal.
Yes, every house is set to get a box. So those dangling wires are a intermediate piece of the puzzle. So we go through and we put in the main line, and then we stub out, and you'll see conduit sticking out on the side. Then they'll come in and put in the box on there, and then they come back. Another drop crew will come back, not the mainline crew, but a drop crew will come back through the yard, and then a third crew comes in to blow fiber. And so it's different crews will come. They'll blow the fiber, and a fourth crew comes in to do the actual install. So it's
Blow the fiber. They're just putting in conduit in. The fiber optic strands are not actually in the pipes going in the ground till they actually blow it into the conduit.
So it's actually blown in with it.
Got it. Like blown glass. Sort of.
No.
Well, it has sleeves on it.
So it has a sleeve on it. It's like a balloon through a pipe. So we pressurize and put that air behind that balloon, and then we tie. They tie the fiber to that balloon, and we blow it. It pushes it through.
Kind of pushes and pulls it, right? You push the balloon pulls the fiber.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So that's why we call it blown. We blow the fiber in because we got that balloon in there. And
that's the third crew that comes through.
Yeah, third crew.
I think so. It was fourth.
Oh, no, fourth is
Fourth
Terminates it.
Fourth is.
And if we have a issue, crew number one could get separated and look like two crews. Sometimes the
Right.
train gets separated
I
out.
hope that's good, because kids in our neighborhood putting quarters down that thing.
So, but,
There you go,
but
you could get
so the
rid.
dangling wires will generally mean they haven't had an install yet, and we're waiting for them waiting for the resident to call or get online and go through the website to sign up for service. Once they sign up for service, so I went to a house. I had a house call today to one of our previous mayors, and house call was, hey, I'm not being able to make it through the process like it seems like it should. So I thought, well, I haven't been on the other side. Let me come and do this house call with you, and we'll go through it together. We were able to get there, go through it, and
Did he already have his router in?
Nope. He had the dangling wires. All he had was dangling wires on the side of his house. I got and we just turned on the actual fiber this week. So then he has dangling wires. So then the next thing is the install. I was there. Took us maybe 15 minutes to go through the process of the selection process and setup process. And then while I was still there, the ISP called, set up the appointment to finish the install, and we'll be there tomorrow.
So the ISP finishes the install,
That's correct.
but Strata gets it to the dangling wire.
Correct. That's correct.
And then it's the ISP. And so they have.
Can be. A lot of times it's Strata that still finishes the end one, but it can be the ISP. But Strata is mostly doing that. It can be, but it's generally Strata that's doing the install. But the ISP is selected already at that point, and it's live to them. And so when Strata tests the connection, the install connection, they're testing to the ISP, not to Strata. It's whoever's the selected ISP is who it tests to. So so that's why some questions have come up is, do I have to have an ISP in order to get the box on the side of my house? The answer is no, don't have to. But
You have to indicate to Strata that you want to stick with the basic package.
But you would have to tell Strata that you want the box installed without having it connected. And because the process is that what is triggering when you go to select an ISP, that's the trigger for the box for the next steps to install. Right. So it's not required, but it is the natural flow. If you want to fight the flow, you can. It takes a little bit more effort to fight the flow, but the flow is to get an ISP.
We need to add that to the top of the Q&A.
Yeah, because that seems confusing. You'll have a lot of people be like dangling wires, you know.
Okay, once you see dangling wires, you can pretty much guess that you're ready to call and get it, select
Do
your
they
ISP.
know that though, or do they think just didn't get?
They will get.
When I say they, I mean the resident.
Well, that's my contact.
It's also bedtime.
Yes.
That's why it's contact.
So, anyway. But we are getting them noticed. Those that were able should have gotten a text and an email that they were ready to sign up. And so we're seeing lots of that go, and then they'll get a phone call to follow up. But yeah, once you get dangling wires, that's a pretty good indication you're home is ready. You're right there. We're
So
really excited.
with
when
the
we get there.
dangling wire, the fiber is, you're through having the fiber blown in. If you
That is-
have a wire hanging by your house.
That is the blown in fiber that's hanging there. If the dangling wire is there, that is the blown in fiber. You've got fiber to the house. Now you need an ISP.
And there are some people who have chosen not even to have.
There is some that don't want the fiber blown.
Or even the conduit.
There is some that don't want the conduit laid.
But
That's
they're
true.
still paying the fee.
At this point, if he hasn't been initiated yet, at some point that will come, but they will when we turn that switch. That switch
It's
hasn't
the
been.
utility model.
Right. When that switch is switched, then it will, but that switch hasn't yet been switched. But yeah. Any other questions? Fiber or otherwise?
Thank you for all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Get everybody that's here. The next meeting will be on November 16th. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.